All right. Good evening, everybody. I've got six. I've got 404. We've got our technical difficulties. Oh, don't start. Our technical difficulties squared away, so we will go ahead and call to order the City Council workshop for September 9th at 4 p.m. Call to order at 40. What did I just say? Good Lord, my head's all over. 404, I think is what I said. So, okay. Announcements and citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to suggest the addition of topics for discussion or to address topics of interest. Presentations limited to 3 minutes, please. All speakers will conduct themselves in an orderly and lawful manner. All speakers will be recognized prior to speaking and will announce their name and address to be included in the minutes. State law prohibits the mayors and members of City Council from commenting on any statement or engaging in dialogue without an appropriate agenda item being posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Law. Let's see. First up, we have Michelle Wiseman. Michelle, while you're coming up, I want to remind our speakers tonight, and I will do this again at the 6 o'clock regular session in council. I'll remind all of us as well. I did tune in Thursday, actually watched Friday morning. Our citizens are absolutely correct. You cannot hear anything. If you cannot hear yourself, to include our speakers, in the speakers overhead, you're not being recorded and our residents cannot hear you. So please speak into the microphone. If you're going to turn side to side, kind of turn your head and move with it so that we can get everything recorded. So Michelle, I apologize. Go ahead.
No problem. I'm Michelle Wiseman and I live at 1 Ridgewood Drive. And I hope this comes across clearly. I am here to talk about the possibility of raising our land tax, but I want to lead with roads. City Council, you did your research on the roads. You went to professionals and you looked at our budget and you paired it up with the right company that could repair our roads. And we are getting the repairs that our city can afford to have. And I want to thank you for that. I really honestly, I thank you for that. So logic is always helpful when we're looking at things. We don't live in Disneyland. And also we have some experts in our back pocket that I want to bring your attention to, and they are the EDC. On the EDC, we have a real estate attorney, we have a realtor, we have an engineer and a small business owner. We have a gentleman who oversees management and installation of fuel pumps, gas fuel pumps, and environmental regulations that correspond with that. We have small business owners in construction that were retired from that now. We have 30 years of experience of nonprofit leadership. And I was always taught to be humble, but I'm gonna brag a little bit on my husband, who's an executive salesman for dispatch systems, two-way radio systems, and tower sites. So much so that competitive companies, he outbids them, and other companies try to figure out what he did and how he's done it, and they can't figure it out. So I'm just telling y'all, they are here with our heart in the city to help grow our economic development so that we don't have to sit here and talk about possibly taxing the land here in our city on residents across the board. I really hope that you guys will look to the EDC and encourage them and help them to use their ways of developing revenue in this city. And some ideas have been put out there for them to do that will bring in absolute no money for this city. And right now, with efforts like our Governor Abbott to reduce and eliminate property tax, I think this would be a great time for our city to plan for a future with reduced or eliminated property taxes. You guys, just like the roads started with the first step, we need at NPR to develop more tax revenue, and the EDC has some excellent ideas for the first step. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Donna.
Thank you. Donna Hartman, 112 Great West Loop. First, I wanted to thank the staff and the council for all of your work on this budget. I know the staff has been working diligently on it. I know as council members, you've come prepared tonight looking at your budgets and ready to really delve into that. What I'm asking the council is maybe to take a breath. We've been through a lot of changes. We've been through a lot of turmoil. There's been things that have gone on. I'm asking you if we could just maybe slow this pace down a little bit. I'm talking in regards to the tax rate, and I'm talking in regards to the fees. As far as the tax rate, I think that we can go back to the rate that we had before. I think that's prudent. I know that several of you were concerned about Senate Bill 10, where they would put a cap on our tax rate, and that could really hurt the city. And that Senate bill was killed, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to ask you to reconsider going back to that tax rate to help give our citizens a break. Also, in regards to the fees, this city has always had difficulty with fees. When we became a city, there was a maintenance fee that was assessed to every citizen in their deed of covenants. The city didn't put it there. It was done by the developers. It raised about $100,000 worth of fees. Oh, there was a few people that were exempt from that. Over the years, as we added subdivisions, they were not paying these fees. They paid HOAs is how they paid, but it didn't go into the city coffers, where citizens got more and more upset about these fees. And so in August of 21, I was on the council at that time, we dissolved those maintenance fees for our citizens to make it fair and equitable. And these fees to me do not seem fair and equitable. I know that all the water customers are receiving it, but we have to remember not everybody is a water customer. The undeveloped lots that are just owned separately without a homestead on it do not pay water bills. Also, I'm concerned about people on fixed incomes and lower income families. We're adding to their plate again, $5 to their plate. So I'm going to ask you to really think about that, and maybe let's look at ways that we can mainstream some of our budget. Some recommendations are for the parks, which we want to do at Ansay Park. There's grants available. I've checked with the COG. Also, the EDC pardon me?
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds, okay. Well, I'll be continued later then. But anyway, I have a few ideas of how we can do revenue streams. So thank you very much.
Gotcha, to be continued. Larry, please, sir.
Larry Hartman, 112 Great West Loop. Interlocal agreements. Interlocal agreements, thank you. We have them. If the police need some help, we can get it. If the fire department needs help, we can get it. Talk is going around that we're going to put one person in charge of the fire department and the police department. Well, I'm here to tell you, police and fire have never got along. They will tell you they do, but they don't. We used to have the pig bowl, which the fire department would play football against the police department to see who was the best. So think about that. If it's all about money, that's the wrong decision. Because at some point in time, somebody's going to leave, and they're going to have to replace them. And there's no training out there for this. There's a few other cities that do it, but most cities don't do it. There's a reason for that. Think about that. Fees, I pay about $2,500 in fees this past year. I didn't get much out of it. I can afford it. A lot of people can't. Fees are not a good thing. It's basically a tax on the citizens, but we call it a fee because we can change it, we can do anything we want to it, and to me it's just greed. So I just want you to think about that before you do anything with fees, because once you start it, it's very difficult to stop. Taxes, we pay plenty in taxes, but we're getting something for that. Anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Do you have, I can't find it. Do you have, can you pull it up? So we have two residents that have, okay. Okay. Are you going to give it to me to read? Okay, we have two residents that were unable to make it this evening and asked that we would read their, a quick statement into the record. So we have made it a practice of doing that. So we'll continue to do that. So this is from Jojo Guzman, 22 Willow Run, for the record. Mayor, council, city manager. While the budget may be blamed, it is not fair. I urge the council to make adjustments before adoption. I sent a detailed email on September 3rd, and I hope each of you reviewed the information independently, as well as the thoughtful ideas residents have shared on social media. First, COLA raises should not automatically go to department heads, recently promoted staff, the interim city secretary, or the CFO, ACM, HR director. Raises should be based on merit and performance, especially in a year where funds are tight. The exception should be our first responders, where retention is critical. Second, the proposed consolidation of fire and police should be removed from this year's budget. No one in the city knew about it until it appeared in a budget line item. There have been no town halls, no agenda items, no resolutions, no real discussion of costs or cross-training. Research also shows consolidation should not be attempted during low morale, which we know exists today. Third, regarding new fees, residents have already offered alternative solutions. These deserve considerations before more costs are passed down. Lastly, I strongly recommend that the council adopt a requirement for any future city manager to reside within Morgan's Point Resort. Residency within the city enhances accountability and budget decisions, fosters stronger community connections, and ensures a more effective response during times of crisis. Urge you to listen to your residents and ensure this budget is both balanced and fair. Thank you. I didn't know I was going to have to be a scribe. Okay, this is from Mr. Manderkey, 54 South Cliffwood Circle. Unfortunately, I'm still testing positive for I don't know if she wanted me to share that part. She's positive for COVID. I think everybody knows that. So she's unable to attend the workshop. She's asked that her comments be read in the citizen comment space. Her concerns are below. Proposed budget for FY 25-26 only has numbers on it. There's nothing that tells which numbers are which department. I have repeatedly asked for a legend for the city budget for the 25-26 FY city budget, so that I can put it on the website so residents will know which department has which numbers. As it is, only the financial staff and department heads know their numbers of their specific budgets. The public deserves to know how much of their money each department is receiving. Second, why is the library under the Director of Administrative Services and not a separate entity on its own like the Public Works, Public Utilities, Code Enforcement, and Safety? The library has a budget like other departments, yet it doesn't have its own director. Yes, it is manned by volunteers, but that would be alleviated if the city would hire an employee to oversee the library. I notice there is no communication department. Has that been dissolved? And may I ask why? I do not believe the elimination of a separate fire chief and police chief is in the best interest of the city. As it is now, the police chief doesn't have time to return calls, texts, or emails to the residents, which a lot of residents have told me has been said to them because he's too busy in the office. If he is that busy only being police chief, how is he going to handle both new jobs? Has he been trained in firefighting? If not, how much will it cost the city for him to receive the training? There is a lot about the fire department about which he does not know, and I feel the residents will suffer under the combination of both departments. Please keep the departments separate. Thank you. Okay. I think I've told y'all before, like on day one of this job, I hate reading out loud. I don't do it very well, so. I'm actually focusing on not dripping on myself, so. Okay, on that note, we will continue on with the regular agenda. The only thing on the agenda tonight in our workshop is discussion item 25070, discuss the FY 25-26 proposed annual budget. I know council has a lot of questions and discussion. I know our residents do. So Dennis, I'm going to turn it over to you to lead the way into this, and we'll just take off.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to go ahead and start talking about budget. I know it's on a lot of people's minds from the residents that have voiced their concern. And of course, we've talked to many residents outside of this venue. And so I know it's something that people would like more information about. Some of the things we talked about last year, all right, I'll do that. Thank you. Some of the key factors that's considered in any budget, at least should be, is the current and projected revenues. Some of the people talked about this tonight or this afternoon. Revenue diversification is something we don't have. It doesn't exist. EDC is a driver of that, should be in most cities, but there's a dichotomy between some residents that prefer a more diverse economy as far as bringing business to alleviate taxpayers, property taxes. Others not wanting anything more than a bedroom community. So I know that mindset exists, but that is something that has to be factored in. Projected expenditures, current and projected, also has to be looked at. What opportunity cost that we're trading off when we decide not to do something or to do something, and whether that cost and benefit, how it equates. City manager goals and priorities, needs and expectations, legal regulatory requirements, current projected population, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on each of these and talk how they really fit into NPR. Funding reserves and contingencies, current projected economic conditions, and current projected condition of infrastructure, that's your water, sewer, drainage, roads. Budget plan and budget versus budget actual. Plan of the budget is only good as, obviously we don't know what you don't know, but also execution of that budget depends on many variables that have to be continuously evaluated. And then funding allocations, which I think is what a lot of people are wanting a little bit more information about. So let's just start with current projected revenues. We do obviously look at property taxes. It was mentioned where Bill 10 is now off the table, off the radar of the governor's office, I can assure you that. And it will be back, and there is a push to lower property taxes by, I would say, across the aisles to ensure that they are dropping. Now, whether that's going to be providing for a cutout for public safety in the future, no one can really say. No one can say they're going to be successful, but it's something that certainly should be on everyone's radar. Enterprise fees, those are the fees that, be it water, marina, what have you, that naturally is a revenue source for operations for those enterprise funds. But there's other fees that the city charges, and you come in the city hall, you go to that front desk, and you see it could be permitting, it could be a myriad of things. Municipal debt issuance is something else for revenues. There's two sides of that equation. The more debt you take, the more concerns you might have. If it gets too warm in here, I guess just let us know and we'll get somebody to. It's too warm? Too warm. You just complained a little while ago? Okay. State and federal grants, we are not taking advantage of that. Quite frankly, the audits are the hindrance of that. That said, I'll be talking about audits here in a little bit, but that is another revenue source. Other revenue sources, that's diverse things along, like I was telling you, with City Hall. And there's other things involved. I'm going to come back on every one of them and talk about it. Is that? Oh. All right, I'll try to remember that. All right, current and projected expenditures. We look at infrastructure. Obviously, that is the biggest. You going to do it? You're a scribe and a slider. So you can't beat that. Infrastructure, and no one's to blame, but it is in pretty bad condition. And yes, we are making progress, and that's good. And I applaud City Council for what it's gotten done. There are some things, even the stuff that was taken care of, that still needs more work on. And there are things for year 2 through 10 that's also going to be costing money. And there's no dedicated revenue source. This budget actually creates that, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Salary and benefits is also a driver of expenditures. Expenses for services, it costs more to deliver the services, not only in salary benefits, but also products and services that we depend on continuously going up. Municipal obligation, that's the debt. Again, there's good and bad. You have to pay the debt. Right now, we have about $1.8 million in debt. It's a CO, certificate of obligation, I'm sorry. And that's a payment of about $140,000 a year, broken up I think in 4 payments. Yeah. Yes, I wasn't here, but yeah, that's what I understand. Yes. Considerations, other considerations for expenditures, like I talked to you about. What's the cost versus the benefit? And this is relative to everybody in this room. And maybe there's 4 or 5 who agree one thing and 4 or 5 who don't, and they want to think of something else. But the bottom line is, it does take money to run city government. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. The state, if it continues down this road of squeezing the property tax rate down to where cities can't function, the cities are going to go to fees. So you might as well accept that. Not saying that you have to accept this budget. I'm just saying to council that is really the only option left. So I just want to make sure. Well, diversification in your economic base is really important. So businesses are important, but you are landlocked. We, as a city, we only have about 3 square miles. So it's not something, and a lot of that's already been taken up. And so what? That's true. That's true. Yeah. And then the opportunity cost. What are you going to do and at what expense? If you give up something you were going to do and you're going to say, well, this is what we're going to do, make sure that opportunity that you're moving is worth it, because otherwise it could backfire. You can only spend the dollar once and then it's gone. City council goals and priorities, financial integrity and accountability. I know that's been a driver for some time here. Communication, transparency. We'll be talking about that in a little bit more detail as well. Enhance safety and emergency preparedness. This budget should address that as well, and at least in part. And roads and infrastructure, which we talked about. Community needs and expectations. Residents want transparency, engagement, public safety, economic benefits we just talked about, to keep the taxes lower. Infrastructure, quality of life, and environmental, all are important. And I believe the budget does touch on this, but the thing of it is, it's relative to every person. Some people say we need more parks, we need better roads, we need our water to be protected. There's a litany of things out there, and all of them are right. There's no wrong answer there. Legal and regulatory requirements, regardless of what people agree with it or not, the government is going to regulate what goes on in smaller cities. They're tightening its grip. The governor's office, because there's multiple grants were not kept up on, or grants, audits that were not kept up on. And COVID was a driver from that, from my understanding, in a lot of communities. Well, COVID's over with. The governor's office has directed that is addressed, and they have. We have been placed on, I won't say probation, but you're not able, if you are, what's the word they use for the grants when they pause you? Placed on hold, we'll call it that. When you're placed on hold by the governor's office, you cannot apply for, you cannot receive any money, nothing. You're shut down until that issue is addressed. We have notified them that this is the circumstances we're dealing with, and we gave them a rough timeline of when that 2023 audit. And the reason that's important is because there was a ground storage tank funding that was used, ARPA funding, which is federal funding, and there's a single audit that's required. No one knew that it needed to be done, but it still doesn't relieve the fact that it had to be done. Well, all that stuff is at the auditors, and the single audit is being performed as well as the audit for 2023. And the governor's office has not placed us on hold. They have done it a couple of times, and they released it a few hours later when they realized there was nothing that we did wrong. But that's just the way it will be, and it's going to get tougher. There's going to be a tougher timeline for your audits to be completed. Instead of, it's always been, you got till October 1 when you close the budget, or when you start the new budget. You have basically through March 31st of the following year to get your audits done. But there is a deadline, I think it's 180 days beyond that now. If it's not done, that engages certain other ramifications because you didn't do what you should have done as a city. These are not options, that's requirements. Tax code requirements, federal state procurement requirements, and other federal and state requirements. One of the first things that the FEMA disaster personnel came up, and one of the first things they asked was, where's your procurement policy? But we didn't have one. So we have one now. It's not perfect. There's still some tweaking that needs to be done on it, but we follow state law. So everything worked out and we got those reimbursements, and that's great. However, and we haven't got them all. We have some that we're still pending, but we got the bulk of the vegetative debris cleanup. That was $674,000, I think is what we got. The other thing you look at is current and projected population growth. Economic impact. It's going to cost more money for water lines, water to purchase water and what have you, demand on services, which is what that is. We got to look at alignment of resources, infrastructure expansion, and it does look, you have to look at long-term strategic planning, which council started doing, well, they've not always done it probably, but since I've been here, we had a meeting in February, the council specifically looked at the capital improvement projects, the critical infrastructure that, and not only now, but in the future. What we didn't have at the time, we didn't have an engineering study to look at our critical infrastructure as we do with roads, but it needs to look at water, what sewer, because some people are on sewer, drainage, roads, buildings, and what have you. That assessment needs to be done. We have a contract now. It's been signed off on and executed. Council approved us to go ahead and move forward with it, with KPA, which is a local company, not out in Austin, I think, where the other one was located. That said, that is the next step in the process. And while council didn't enjoy that opportunity to have that assessment before they met in February, they should have it by the next time go around. The next thing, funding reserves and contingencies. We've got to manage our risk. And that can be not just economic risk, public safety risk and what have you. There's other things you have to factor in. Financial stability is something that it's not just stability, it's sustainability. You got to start looking forward and say, okay, we know where we're going as a community. We got to fund these programs. It's not always going to be popular. My job's not to tell you what you want to hear, or maybe it will, or maybe it won't. But I am here to make recommendations that I think will sustain programs that are vital to this community. That's relative as well. Most people, I think, can understand that. But it's important to be transparent and accountable in that sense, accountability, if you will. I'm on page 9, going to page 10. Okay. Near and long-term strategic planning is also critical in that. Current and projected economic conditions. Right now, there was like a 911,000, I think, drop in unemployment than what was stated in previous times by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What that means is our unemployment rate may very well go up. In other words, the economy may be slowing. We don't know that for sure. But the cost of living, we do know, went up to 2.7. Core inflation, that's the CPI, which will be released later this week. The core inflation is hovering right around that 3%. So it's those are a couple of things we watch, but you also have to watch what the producers are charging for what it costed them. And they have inflation, if you will, as well. And so that if what's called a PPI, if it goes up, those costs will eventually be passed on to their customers. So cost of living is a big thing, and it affects everybody. $1 today will not pay for something tomorrow. It would have been cheaper over the last 30, 40 years to make an investment, even though people didn't want to at the time, in the critical infrastructure, the roads, there's drainage, the sewer to a limited extent, to the water, than it will be moving forward. It's already passed us, nothing we can do to fix it, but that's a lesson learned that $1 is worth more today than it will be tomorrow. Debt management, right now, 1.8 million is not too bad. I think it's about right for this community until we get some of these other answers from the audits that's coming up. Budget constraints, they're always going to be there. Revenue forecasting. We saw in the revenue expense report that's provided to council now that there was a lot of expenses that were not hitting the right period. They were charged to this fiscal year and they belonged in last fiscal year. That's been worked out a lot, but the revenues were also not hitting the right accounts. So the revenue forecasting were pretty much kept for the fiscal year 26, pretty much consistent until we know for sure. So it's apples to apples, and we can get a better read on that because it is new software. Encode's what they used to use. We're using FundView now, and it's not a very robust program, as I'm sure people are aware. In FundView, you can, in my opinion, not FundView, Tyler Technologies Encode, you can drill down into almost every aspect of it. This one doesn't have it. It's a newer company. I'm sure they'll get there, but it doesn't have some of the features that a lot of people were expecting, I don't think. Revenue diversification, I talked about that. If we don't do it as a community, it's going to come back to the property owners, and just there's no option. Grants are going to take care of you in a lot of ways, but there are still limitations there. Near and term, long-term planning definitely needs to be looked at in that sense. Current and projected status of infrastructure. I told you about the age and condition assessment that's going to be done throughout the city. Council is already aware of it, and we'll be looking forward to doing that in this next fiscal year. Earlier, the better, because that way you can plan the most important projects first from a council standpoint. Capacity and demand is something that we'll definitely have to look at, and resilience and sustainability. Technological integration, there's things we're doing, I think, better today in some regards from some of the enhancement. And we saved, what, I think about 170,000 for a sewer lift station that a lot of people thought, to include myself, that we would need. Well, lo and behold, we were able to do it for 40-some thousand. We bought and had the talent internally to actually replace the pumps and stuff ourselves, and we don't have to make that cost now. So those are the kind of things that you don't realize that actually will benefit the community. Funding and financing, programs and services are always going to be something that's going to take both. And sometimes you have to look outside financing. Regulatory compliance, like I said, that also deals with that as well. TCEQ owns a lot of control, has a lot of control over all governments. It's not just us. But just like anything else, you find out what you can work with and you move forward. Budget plan versus actual. This is probably the most important thing, especially the last thing on the list. Budget variances, which, between what we had and what we go down, where we're at now, for the periods, whether it's fiscal year or if it's the revenue expense report, it's from the previous or year-to-date information. Budget compliance, very important. Expenditure control, we didn't have any. Quite frankly, a lot of things were just done, and it's no one's fault, but we now have a procurement module that if you're going to make a purchase, there's a purchase requisition goes in, it's tracked according to the budget. It's a new program. It just went up, how many months ago? May. So we don't have it for the whole year, but we are moving forward in a more responsible, accountable way that I think will be beneficial to the community as well as lend itself, showing that there is an attempt to make sure it's a good stewardship over the funds that we're entrusted with. Forecasting accuracy, that's really important for your budget. And right now we are still fleshing that out. Revenue performance, and that's where we're still flushing. I want to make sure, just like the expenses, we knew they were screwed up and we got them, a lot of them fixed. We need to make sure the revenues are hitting the right accounts. A good example, we had the interest of sinking, which those who may not be familiar with, that's your debt. It's got to be done. There's a separate tax rate. Yes, I'm sorry. There's a separate tax rate that regulates, that's by law, that has to be separately looked at and approved by council. That money, instead of hitting that account where it should have been, was hitting another account, which looked good on paper, but it wasn't realistic. So those are the kind of things that you got to know that you're hitting and where you're supposed to be as far as revenue performance and making sure it's going in the right account. Strategic adjustments. The budget itself is pretty straightforward. You'll see it as I go through it, and we're 2/3 away from my presentation, so it won't take much longer. But strategic adjustments have to be made. I'll just give you an example. We started a fiscal year, and lo and behold, there were some changes, obviously, some people know about, but we found out that we hadn't paid some bills. We got fined, and we got penalty and interest on it, dating back to 2020 year. So those bills have continued to increase, and this was with IRS, and there's several others. But the point is that we need to understand and get our house in order. That's one part, but it's also understanding that those dollars weren't factored in because no one knew about it until the bill came due. Well, when we were made aware of it. So what do? We had a contingency fund for the city manager. We had some ideas, council, during the budget adoption. We said, okay, well, this is what we'll use. Well, they never got used for that. They got used for paying bills, and that's just the way it was. And it was no one currently that had any control over that. You have to pay IRS, or you're just going to keep paying that interest on it, and the penalties never goes away. So those are adjustments. There's a lot more. It's a lot more detailed, but I want to let you know that that is a part of any budget, and we'll have to plan for those in this budget. This particular funding allocation / impact that I'm about ready to enter into is with the understanding that it's assuming that all the audits come back. We've got fiscal year 2030, dealing with the ground storage tank, and the single audit are coming on the 23rd. That's right. So it's 23rd. They had to work through some issues, and they gave us a draft, but they've done that. And our understanding, they're going to show up and present it on the 23rd of this month. So in a couple of weeks, we'll have it. But then they're going to start fiscal year 24. Fiscal year 25 is not closed yet, so that won't close till 1 October, but we're coming up to the end. So we're looking at fiscal year 24 and 25. The audits need to be done, and we need to see how much we realistically have in each fund balance, not just the general fund, it's one of the easier ones, but as far as not so much what unassigned fund balance, but in these other enterprise funds, we need to know, because that ground storage tank, excuse my analogy, but sucked a lot of funds and from multiple sources, NPR funds, ARPA federal funds, and bond, which was NPR's funds. So, yeah. So,
Is it done?
do I? Oh, I'm sorry. Is it done? Yeah, we've got it done. We've got a different engineer now. That's been separated. We're working with the auditors. We were on the phone call, was it Monday or Tuesday last week? And they're talking about the expenses. Some of these expenses should have hit last year. We got that. We haven't closed it yet. So there's some things we're using the auditors for that guidance on how far, what we need to do. But until we know, I don't know the number, to be honest with you. I don't know the exact number that thing costs because it spans multiple years. Normally what you do is you put all the money into a CIP and you can track what goes in and what goes out. We didn't do that. It was all mixed in with the budget. Some of it was here, some of it was there. So it doesn't really matter at this stage. We just got to get the accountability portion of that through the auditors and get it recognized so we can get that fiscal year 24 audit. We get that. We've already got an engagement letter, which means they're already been hired by council and the contracts are executed and the funding for them, both of them, are in this year's budget. That will allow us to go ahead and have both audits done, and then things will settle down. We'll know exactly where we're at. And the general fund is a little bit different because you always look at the current period, but you also have it backed up with property taxes, good, bad, or indifferent. That's the way it is. And so it's a little bit more predictable. Some of the other revenue streams I'm not comfortable with, but property taxes, if you're supposed to get 3.5 million, 3.6, pretty good chance you're going to get it. There's usually an uncollected portion involved in that you're never going to collect, or at least not then. So, but that's been factored in as well. So, okay, so what I'm going to do now is go into I didn't finish my thought. With the budget, if for some reason these enterprise funds or the general fund, if the general fund actually looks like the balance is below the minimum rate the council sets, then some of these dollars may very well be reallocated strategically with their knowledge and their consent back where they belong. If we find out that enterprise funds are not able to sustain let's take a contractual obligation with the Corps of Engineers. You have a marina that has a Dock D, there's Dock D and E, both, and both of them have to have a refloat. They have to have upgrades and maintenance, in addition to everything else. It's contractual, it's not an option. So there may be money in that account adequate, and we're good, and we'll do D, and then we'll do E the following year. The problem with that is if we don't know what we don't know, if that fund comes in lower, because remember, we've had so many audits behind, when we find out what the truth is, and it's got it in the bucket, and we know how it's all divided, then if it runs short, there's only a couple options you can do. One is the Marina Fund could take out a loan, would be through council, obviously. The other option is to borrow from another fund. Well, normally that'd be the general fund's the strongest one in that sense. And that's what you got that's the unknowns that you have to be prepared for. Best laid plans, mice and men, we don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know if it's that to that extent, but I'm not going to put anything past anything could happen. So yes, the budget's there and it's got programs and services, but understanding that there's also the intent is to slow everything down as far as get everything set up, ready to go, get the audits in, and see where those holes need to be plugged. If they don't, then we can go ahead and execute the contracts based off of the project list the council approved in February that's been brought back and made a part of this budget process. So the funding allocations, this is the money that we're proposing, and impact that some of them, so it's kind of like funding allocation / impact. Maintenance and operations are funded for fiscal year pretty much close to the current levels. There's a couple reasons for that, but the bottom line is there's no sharp increase. In fact, I think both of the major departments, police and fire, actually had a little bit downturn on our savings, if you will. It does address competitive pay, which is important if you want a workforce. In years past, it might have been just somebody, I'm not saying in every case, I'm just saying somebody just having a seat saying, now you're this, When I was in the Army, they would give people and say, well, now you're the re-enlistment NCO. Well, if they had no training, no knowledge, skills, or abilities in that, it's not going to help them. It's just going to make matters worse. And so I think what we're trying to do is get its position to where this place is sustainability, whether I'm sitting in this chair or somebody else is sitting in this chair in the future, which will happen. You need to make sure that you've got your house in order. There was some discussion about a home rule at one time. In my opinion, I don't think the city was ready to go home rule based on what I saw when I got here. I came from a home rule city. I understand that a little bit from that end of it. But I do think there's going to be a time in the near term that you all can choose to do that if you want and sustain it the way the government would expect you to do it. And I think that's an opinion of mine. It may not be valid depending on how people look at it. Health insurance did increase 9%, but the increase is absorbed. Now, that's not dependent care. That's for the employees, but with the same benefits. 2 FT full-time equivalents were eliminated, 1 admin and 1 in the fire department. There is a police fire transition proposed. Communication, basically United. She did communications. She's still going to do those jobs for now, but the communications and the fire chief position. And we'll talk about that next. The police and fire transition. Police and fire came to me, and I think they are working well together. They seem to have a good plan. They were talking, and we've had this discussion that they would like to do a public safety department. What probably isn't general knowledge is you're kind of already started that process, whether you know it or not. Public safety department, some of the biggest cost drivers are housing them. Well, they're already moved in the same building, so you already got that done. And 2 is the cost related to the people and their dual or tri-certifications. That means you could be police, fire, and EMS wrapped up in one person. Some departments do it. There's some in Texas. I'm from up north, so there's a lot more of those than there are down south. That said, that public safety department, there's different phases of that project. What?
You're not from up north, you're from Missouri.
Well, okay, yeah, you told me that the other day. You told me that the other day. That's true. Well, maybe not far up north. But the public safety department, when you're doing that approach, there's different things. There's one step is the administrative consolidation. That's what's being recommended here. That is not the same as a functional consolidation, which is the next step, and it can be controlled. If this was a fast-growing city, because I've heard different viewpoints, I've been in public safety for a long time. I know I've got friends in these places, and I can tell you right now that the faster a small city grows, I mean breakneck speed, this would not be an approach I would recommend. If it is a larger department, I can tell you, I was a police chief for over 12 years, and I can tell you I work well with fire, but neither I nor they would have ever decided to do a public safety department. We just wouldn't have done it. And most of them won't. They're rooted in tradition, in their own world, and I got that. And I know a lot of them from Houston, San Antonio, you name it. There's a lot of them, the larger cities that even are more rooted than what I was. That said, the administrative consolidation is the first step. That's where you get the public safety director, you get your fire and your police operations. They're coming under one system. They have their policies and procedures. They still independently will run their operations, but as time goes, as they get the functional consolidation that will occur under that concept, it may take years. You can slow the roll, you can speed it up as a council. But once that's done, it can grow incrementally, and you can turn around and start that functional consolidation next. And that's where, if I end up getting, let's say I want to get fire and EMS, which right now, when I said that you've already started that process, you already have police and fire under one building, but you also have certifications. You got a paramedic and police, and you've got some EMTs over there. I don't know how many, but that's what it's about. The thing it is, you've got it started, you might as well formalize it. If you want that kind of service where an officer shows up and that's a paramedic or that's an EMT, that can be built upon. And again, it's not all and done, one and done. It takes time to build that process, but you got to start somewhere. But since you're where you're at, the best thing is let's go ahead and start that process now formally and do the administrative consolidation. Obviously, it will save some money there, and at the same time, it will start a new era to where the service delivery is far beyond what you currently have. If you need to send somebody and somebody says, well, look, I don't have staffing for this on this side of the house, and you got a triple certified person or a double, you might be able to just say, look, I'll fill that void for you, and you've got staffing. So there's different ways of looking at it. Every city's got their own preference, but can you do it here? Yes. Should you? That's a council decision, not mine to make. It's being proposed, and I think it's probably a smart move. From my perspective, I think you're already started it, and I think it will benefit the community from a public safety standpoint. Facilities and infrastructure security improvements. That there is, just like this building, it was broken into, I'm thinking, how many times? 2 or 3 times? I don't know. Three times. That TV was replaced 3 times since I've been here. Now, once the security system went up, sure enough, that they caught somebody on the grounds, and that he didn't actually break in that time, but we haven't had a problem since, to my knowledge. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But that same facilities infrastructure, security improvements, are for your critical infrastructure, your water. That's critical to have those water towers, the place where the chemicals are dealt with and what have you. We need to continue on. The marina needs security. Cameras, they got some, but not the kind they really need. And that's something that this budget builds on again to the next level. And it will take a multi-year approach. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Funding allocation impact for a new city website. Communication's been a big issue. Got it. It's built into the budget. You could spend $250,000, you could spend $500,000 on not us, it's not required, but you could certainly spend a lot of money on websites, and it all depends on what the stakeholders want and the ability to pay for what they're wanting. And so there's been money set aside for it. You can even get them almost out of the box, so to speak, and but you'll get that kind of product. So I think in the long run, this budget is going to start moving in that direction. It'll be stakeholder engagement, find out what you're wanting, and if the costs are not there, there's a approach that we can take on that. 30,000. Yeah. There's a mini pumper payment, the second and final payment. I had a choice this past year and brought to council, let you all know, and council approved it. We had a grant contingency fund, just like we do this year. And we were trying to find some money. Of course, we didn't have the grants, the audits done like we wanted to, but we did have a opportunity to get a brush truck. So I went ahead and recommended the brush truck. That's what we have. The application for it actually went in 2018. It just got approved, and I think, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been years in the making. That said, we used that money in the grant contingency fund to fund part of that program, and it's still in the works. And Shane, when are we supposed to get that brush truck roughly? Okay. But that's what the grant contingency funds are for, especially moving forward with the audits done. It's even more so important because we need to get some more additional funding outside of Morgan's Point Resort. So the mini pumper that was really, it's firefighter association that made it happen, because they worked with the city. They went ahead and got it started, and it's technically they own it. But after that second payment's done, contractual obligation, the city will get that title switched over to us. So we thank them for their support of the community, is for sure. 75,000. Yeah, it was 2 payments, 75. This is the second and final payment. Grant contingency fund, I told you about that. Opportunities will start opening up with the fiscal year in 24 audit. They definitely want to see the last audit. So we'll start looking once that one's done. We're hoping it'll be done November, December at the latest. If we can get that thing done, we can start looking. We got $100,000 there. We'll be moving as fast as we can to see if we can get some of this, because that can relieve, just for example, the road program. We might be able to use some of those dollars to offset that. It could be used for parks. There's lots of different things. John A. Park, speaking of that, improvements. We had some money set aside this year. We also had an opportunity with Smith Park where, what's their naturalists are willing to care for Smith Park if we just make an investment. I think it's around less than 40,000. And the Parks Committee has recommended that we move forward with that, but also do a conceptual design, engineering design for John Ansay Park. And I've had calls from residents on this, and they're saying, you know, they got kids, and they say, we still like to have that. And I understand the circumstances that brought us where we are, but we need to get a conceptual design as well as identify the infrastructure there, electrical, water, and what have you. And now we have an engineer, local engineer, we can have that done. And the funding that we have this fiscal year, it will probably not be spent, but we will do what's called a budget carry forward. So nothing's lost. We'll move it over to this new fiscal year. And we budget another 75,000 for this new fiscal year. So that's 150,000 that will get a lot done. And once they do the conceptual design and we can build this John Ansay Park in phases, we might be able to get, recommend to council to purchase a 2 to 12 playground set, and then maybe something else, and do it in phases where you don't have to have 2 or 3 million up front for somebody, and perhaps still take care of the kids in that area. Yeah, we can, when we, right. The engineers will sit down and talk to the stakeholders, and then they'll take that back and they'll start working on what, and they'll make a recommendation based on things. The biggest. Hmm. No. Yeah. Well, once we get the engineers doing their stuff, they'll take it back and they'll get it and they'll draft. We did this on a project that I was familiar with and involved in, where it would have cost us a lot of money for engineering work. We got it done for 40,000. And it's a lot bigger project than this, but costs are more today. So we'll see where it comes from. But doing it in phases will help the community. They'll have something nice out there. We're also factoring in landscaping. So as we build this thing out, no one's going to be, I mean, it's going to take a little bit longer because we're doing it in phases, but 150,000 would go a long way, I think. So also 2026 enterprise funds, I've already told you, there's a little pending fiscal year 24 and 25. There's projects we need to do. It's in the budget that are under fiscal year 26 capital improvement projects toward the back of the budget. Those are something that we need to hold off on until we get the audits to make sure we know what we have before we start doing CIP when it relates to an enterprise fund, which is your water, sewer, marina, things like that. Roadway improvement program. As you know, phase 1 is completed. Now, we definitely need to do that because it's going to keep the deterioration of those roads, it's going to slow them considerably. There's still work that needs to be done on those roads, but it's something that we're going to be working on that in another way. But through the budgetary standpoint, the next phase, phase 2, is $614,887. That's for phase 2 projected by the road improvement plan, where they built certain factors in as escalating costs. We've already, well, the inflation was factored in, so they are, when the time, yes, we'll definitely do that. So what I'm saying is, it's projected at 614,887. We budgeted 456,444. This year, we got it lower than perhaps, for sure, because we had to use some of the money to do some other things, but in the road fund. But we got the first year done. That's good. But we budgeted 456,444. So there's still 158,444 based off of that projection. Whether it's accurate or not, we'll see when we do the RFPs. But there is a contingency in the city manager's budget. There's $100,000 sitting there. If it does need to be done, that could be used for that purpose. It won't cover the whole cost. But I've also got $100,000 in roadway maintenance under the public works. That's other 60,000, if you will, can be used to make sure we stay on track. We don't want to lose the roadway program. And I don't know what 6, 8 months down the road, what it's going to look like. So inflation and cost. So by doing that, you've got some backup there just in case it does come in higher, and 614 could be wrong. It may be 630. We don't know, but that's where we're projecting it based off of that study. And we have the money built in the city manager contingency. And if it's not needed, then that opens the doors for other things. But right now, like I told you, this current year, we budgeted for how much we have in there originally, 40,000 in that, and it went for bills because, so you don't know what sits on the horizon. What you don't know, you don't know. But that contingency is 160,000 there built in. What would happen on the road maintenance though, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, it does have an impact to it. The next thing you're going to see is franchise fees dedicated to critical infrastructure. We talked about a diverse revenue source. We don't have that. We're really relying on our enterprise funds, and in this particular case, on the property taxes and what fees we collected through the normal process. It's on 15, page 15. Okay, it's the last one there. For the roadway improvement program, the way it's designed is franchise fees are basically the right, it's a rental, if you want to say, the right to use our right of way in the city. State constitution and state law does now not allow us to do it for free. For just to say, okay, let me just use Encore. Go use it, you're good. It's not allowed by law. It's not allowed by the Constitution because it's public funds money. So what you've got to do is we can charge them a franchise fee that could be based off a percentage. A lot of cities use, but there's some new there's some regulation that takes kilowatt hours as a measure today as opposed to the percentage. So it's a little bit different. My point is franchise fees are also, and you can look around all the communities, do all the research you'd like, but Killeen uses them, so does Temple, Belton, Round Rock, they all do it. And what they do is they collect that fee, but not only from those businesses that use the right of ways, your Cablevision, your Encore, your electrical people, what have you, they also charge the franchise fees from those enterprise funds that are business-like activities that the city operates. For example, your water department, that's a good example. Your marina, your sewer fund, those are enterprise funds, and they are looked at differently by state law and how we account for them and what have you. This budget took all the franchise fees that we currently get, which is, again, a rental fee for the use of the right-of-way, and dedicated those dollars strictly for roads. So no matter what, you're going to have a funding source moving forward. It's not as robust as the 600,000 plus that we have to deal with, but it's a start. And between that, again, diversifying your revenue for these programs is very important if you're going to sustain them. You can say, well, we'll raise taxes for it. Well, that's your priority for this particular year, but that doesn't mean you're going to be, the next council is going to be all keen on using those taxes for roads. They may say, all right, we got a bigger problem with drainage. So this program is establishing a baseline moving forward that you have a sustainable, predictable revenue source, because your property taxes, as the lady mentioned here, is not, we don't know what is going to happen in the state. We know the trend, and they did it with the schools. They're going to be doing it with the property, county and property personnel as well. So keep that in mind. The actual funds that usually be charged, let's say the trash pickup, the waste management, it's a 5% of their total revenue that they collect for this community. Okay, well, that same 5% is what's used for our enterprise funds here. Killeen uses 9%, at least they were last time I was there. And other cities have their own. So just keep that in mind, that that's not unusual, but if you're looking for a stable funding source moving forward, it's very important. So, well, we've always gotten, yeah, for those enterprise funds, you're right, yes. Yes. You won't be able to bind a future council from changing things. That's just the way government works. But you can certainly make the governance model policies to guide that process moving forward. And those are usually adopted every year as well. So I think it's a good thing to put it in policy and to have that control moving forward. The next one is the Accelerated Vegetative Debris Removal Program. I'm gonna tell you, this is the #1 threat to this community. I was raised in Tornado Alley. I know exactly what it's like up north. And yes, you could get hit by a tornado, but the most likelihood it's gonna happen is this place is gonna catch on fire. And it's not always gonna be where we're gonna be able to put it out in a short order. If the humidity's low, high winds, and you get a spark and it starts a fire, and if it's in the right direction, that's serious business. I can't stress it enough. This budget builds on that. It is this council's decision what they end up doing, but I'm going to recommend a program that's sustainable, just like the roads, so everybody understands this is something that is serious. These cedar trees around here, they got an oil in there so flammable that they burn at a much higher. I'm not a fireman, but I've been around them for some time. Not fireman, but the cedar trees too. Excuse me. But my point is, fire risk is the highest public safety threat, I think, to residents and to their properties. So take that for what it's worth. That's my opinion. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not if a major fire will occur, but when. And so we need to prepare ourselves now and not get caught later on and say, man, I wish I would have spent that money. We had a project on roads where, and I worked in another city, and they said, we wanted to implement a road improvement program, a road fee, if you will. And there was a lot of controversy, and ended up paying 50 cents, I think, maybe $1.50 per meter, whatever it was. The problem was it wasn't enough. It was something, it's better than nothing, but it really didn't do it. And we told them, this is going to be a big issue down the road because these roads are not good. And but it lasted for a few years, and then all of a sudden they had, I think it was Uri, is that the freeze that we had? Damaged them all. You know what the rate is today? $10, because sure enough, they're repairing them all. Those are the kind of things that you as a community member or as a council member or city staff need to keep that in mind. Again, this is a big thing here, and I think we definitely need to pay attention to what's the topic and how to best address it. By creating, well, I'll go on that in a little bit. All properties under this program would be assessed. There's quite a few things involved in this accelerated program. And the reason I'm saying accelerated, because if you do it like the roads and say over the next 10 years, we'll do this, this, and this, well, thumbs up to you for doing something, but this needs to be moved at an accelerated rate and not waited, not put off on the back burner. So it's going to take some resources. I understand that. All properties would be assessed per updated ordinance, so we'll have to do some of that. There's a safety code that actually gives us some authority to address some of these issues. Code enforcement action, when and where required, obviously will be taken. Debris removal services for residents. Instead of paying someone in to come in and take care of it, the goal would be to go ahead, and it's proposed as such, that under this fee, if you will, we will be able to come in at no additional cost, no profit reason, but they'll be able to come in and actually help clear some of your land and get some of the cedars off and mulch some of the trees right there. We have a chipper, the council approved. We got that coming in. We do not have some of the bigger equipment we need. This will help make that happen. But again, there's a lot of variables that come into play. But that strategic adjustments as we need to get this program moving and be able to fund it. But the debris removal will be beneficial because you're not paying a profit. You're just paying what it costs for that equipment monetized, as well as the salary for those couple hours they're on the ground. They can grind the trees, they can chip it right there on site. And then those who don't want to, that live outside the community, and they say, well, you know, they're going to be served officially. And so if they say, well, we're not going to do it, and the city has to go in there and do it, then there's a lien placed on that property for that vacant property that we have to deal with, so we can recoup that cost when that property changes hands. The fee-based recommendation is upfront costs and sustainability. It's not just a one and done, because this is I believe it's a serious threat. And by putting the money as a fee and in a special revenue fund, That means everything that comes in and goes out of that fund has to be for debris. And in this case, I think $1 goes to the quarry cleanup. But that cannot be used for any, so it's $5 a month. It cannot be used for anything else by ordinance. Again, that's something that if the proposal is accepted by the budget, then we'll have to come back and do that through an ordinance and what have you. But that special revenue is a restricted use, and that's why it's designed that way. Whereas if it was a tax increase, the next council can change gears. And I'm not saying that they don't have the authority to do that. They could, but make sure it's worth, again, opportunity cost. What are you giving up to make that decision? The cost and benefit. The priority base, that's what this will all be based off. City property is not immune. City property's we have a lot of property that needs to be addressed as well. The green easements and the watersheds. By doing the watersheds, we can also take care of some of the drainage issues we're having because we got a lot of debris in those. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what that boils down to. Funding allocation for roadway maintenance. We have a lot of, yes, ma'am. Mhm.
And so last year, as a council, we agreed to that. We agreed to the funding for that in 2025 by taking it from roads. And at that point, we all said, we can't take it from roads every year. We have to decide where we're going to fund this in 26 and going forward. So we've already approved this, and now we need to decide, how we're going to fund it.
Road maintenance, there's a lot of right-of-way. Forget take for a minute the roadway improvement plan, and I think this is the last one. Yeah. The roadway improvement plan that you have adopted as council now has a year-to-year road maintenance plan. But it didn't touch it touched a lot of roads this time around. I don't know how many, but it was a lot. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm sure the residents that live there are, and I give all the credit to council. But what needs to be done next also is to deal with these right-of-way improvements that's not being done, the road repairs, the potholes. There's so many of them out there that they need attention. The culverts, the drainage issues that these culverts are either collapsed or they need to be modified or what have you. We have to have funding for that as well. So from the right-of-way improvements and the roadway repairs, throughout NPR, this roadway maintenance, that 100,000 I set aside there, hopefully will be used entirely for that. Because I deal with citizens all the time, say, look, their drainage comes down Morgan's Point Boulevard and it floods into Mariner, and it's, and I've seen it. I've been here during storms, heavy storms, just to take a look at it and see what they were seeing. And sure enough, and I've been multiple times just to check to see how little rain it took to do it. But that area there needs some improvements. This kind of fund would take care of that. Potholes, which is all over the place. And it will deal with, like I said, culverts and other right-of-way improvements. I got a gentleman that says, look, these trucks and it's not wrong. It's just the trucks that we drive are heavy and they damage the roadways. Well, I got it. But we need money to fix those things. So that's what that 100,000 is for. Mind you, there's a portion of that funding that if the roadway improvement plan shoots up higher, there's a pecking order I'd recommend to you, and that is stay on the plan. And we'll just have to look and see if we can find other funding sources. So a portion of that roadway maintenance is also, if need be, could be diverted, but hopefully not, because there's plenty, we don't have enough money as it is now.
Let me add one more thing.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
A portion of our sales tax each year, and this is approved by the voters, and we continue to get it reapproved by the voters, goes to road maintenance. And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, 70,000.
It's about 60,000, and that's already been captured in the 440, that's in the roadway improvement plan. That's already been captured. Yeah. Yeah. And we had several years. That was me. I think I just rubbed up against the mic. It was me. Anyway.
She's dead.
Do what? Okay. Okay. The roadway improvement plan that was adopted, there was a lot of money for years that hadn't been used. That $60,000 had just built up and never used for roadways, or at least maybe not entirely for it. There was a fund there, some money sitting there. So we captured that. We captured this year's funding for that sales tax fee and combined everything together, and we were able to come up with the money we did in the budget the council approved. This year, there's, remember, we got a little bit less, and there's a strategy here. don't want to put in there the road improvement plan, the 613, because what do you think the RFP is going to show? They're not dumb. They know to look at our budgets and stuff, and they'll say, oh, we'll do it at 600,000 or 625 or whatever. So I'm not saying that we can't get it cheaper, but I have to plan for 614,000 at least. So while I hope it's less, the contingency funds are there for various reasons, and it starts with roads, and that's to include road maintenance, even though we got 100,000 for that. It may go down to 40 if we need to get that 614 number. And even then, there's other projects. That's not going to be enough. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff needs to be done out there.
Yeah, I was just going to add about, well, there's a couple things. Number one is that we don't have to spend the road money day one in our budget. That, you
We
know,
weren't planning on it. We
no,
weren't
no,
planning.
I know, that's what's in the budget, yeah.
Mhm.
And that we're going to go out for an RFP and get an estimate. And then if it comes back and because of audits or because of whatever's going on, if we don't feel like we can step up to the 630 or the 650 or however it comes in, then it's up to us to take, we don't have to just take this road plan that was developed 2 years ago and just implement it blindly. We can go in and we can say, this is what the plan said. Now, what can we realistically accomplish in '26? So there's a lot of, not outs, but a lot of different approval points along the way.
And that's what I was referring to earlier when I said, make sure that cost and benefits worth it, because those roads are going to continue to deteriorate. So if you choose to do that, that's a council decision, and you can certainly do that. But the more you don't do is the more it's going to fall in. Right now, we got about 30% of the roads need total reconstruction. Those are not included in your roadway improvement plan. The roadway improvements to slow the problems that you've got now, those others are going to have to find a funding source, and that's going back to, let's see what that grant contingency fund and see if we can use that to move in a direction. Maybe we can find a way to do some of these reconstructs, because they are extremely expensive.
And grants. Once we get the audits done, then roadway can also, we can go after grants. for road
True, but some of these grants are limited based off of the income level. So there's a lot of moving parts here. This budget's addressing a lot of issues. I got it. It's not my decision. My job is to propose what I think is doable, sustainable, even sometimes tough to accept. But at the same time, that's not my call. I've prepared a budget. I think it's a good budget. It's one that's going to be conservative because there's no money that looks to come out of that. We talked about the enterprise funds holding off on capital improvement, but even the roads, like Dorothy said, it won't even be brought. We'll do the RFPs and everything probably around February, March timeframe. We won't even be bringing it back for consideration for approval until May or June. Depends on their timing, but there's a process you have to follow. But that, again, slowing it down now, see how things play out, and having the funding to do the things you want to do and start addressing some of the things that are most important is where you're at. So that's my presentation, and I do have a council, excuse me, I have a, I don't know if you want to break it or just keep going. We've got a short slide presentation from police and fire, and we can do that, and then we'll be done with tonight on our end. Turn it over to Matt.
You want to keep going.
Break as necessary.
Well, Matt is getting ready. I just want to make a comment about the roads too, because we've been looking at roads since we, this council, since we started. And I found a website called SaveMyRoads.com. And there it goes through the rationale behind preserving roads so they can sometimes last up to 40 years if you preserve them before they get too bad. That's why we don't always start with the worst roads first. So if anybody wants to look at that, it had a lot of good information on it.
Now, this presentation's on the administrative consolidation of police and fire that's been recommended in the budget. So Matt, it's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. Today we have before you a presentation for the transition plan for a public safety department. So we'll be combining police and fire, which is proposed in your budget tonight.
Make sure your mic is up to you.
Yeah, so Here, let me just do this. How about this? All right. Yeah. Oh, so,
One more thing.
yes, sir.
Slide over that way just a little bit so we
Sure.
can see your presentation.
Sure. Hang on. Let me get this podium out of the way.
Okay.
Yep.
And can we get a copy of this at some point?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
So tonight, let's go over a couple of the transition plan highlights. So the administration of the police department and fire department would be consolidated in the proposal that you have in front of y'all in the budget tonight. Just the administration portion of that. Operational aspects of the police department remain as is. And operational aspects of the fire department would remain as is. Meaning that, things basically stay the same at this moment in time, minus the administration oversight of budget, policies and procedures would consolidate into one as a director of public safety. So to highlight the transition plan as well is starting forward, as Dennis has said, basically what we would do is if feasibility suggested that a full public safety department was in the best interest of the city, we would start by sourcing cross-certified people from interested personnel that we already currently have. Meaning, as you know, we already, or some of you may not know, so we already have cross-certified people in at least medical. We've also had cross-certified people in fire as well. So they've held about 2 different cross-certifications over the course of the years. Meaning we've had police officers that have been certified as firefighters. We also now have police officers certified as medical personnel. So all full-time personnel in the department, in the police department, are all certified as emergency medical responders, EMTs, or paramedics, or licensed paramedics in some case. We now, in addition to that, have police officers that are certified in wildland firefighting who are sitting in this room tonight as well. So you see the cross certification across that department. We've also had interest and have explored the ability to have fire marshal office for doing arson investigations and things like that from the fire department side, which will require you to be a police officer to do that. So there's a combination of cross certification on both sides of the house that benefit the city. So again, to start that, we would source what we have currently available to us and our personnel that we have. So meaning, if a volunteer firefighter wants to become a reserve police officer, we would send them to the academy to be a police officer, and they can volunteer on both sides of the house. And I say volunteer, we call them reserves on the police side because that's a technical term. But they would volunteer on the fire department side as well. So you'd have 2 different certified, or a person has dual certification that way. Vice versa. If a police officer wants to be certified as a firefighter, which again, we've had and we currently do have, they can volunteer their services on that side of the house, on the volunteer side of the fire department. So what this does is the proposal brings greater unified services to the city. Again, what the other thing that we're not talking about is our dive team. Our dive team right now, we are comprised of, was comprised, I don't know if we have any anymore at the current moment, was comprised of police officers, firefighters, utility workers here in the city, and then just normal everyday citizens who have different various job types. So what that does is it also brings them all of us under one roof, one unified service providing to the city and the region. Another thing that we talked about that y'all, let me take this fuzzy thing off. Does that help a little bit? Maybe not. The one thing that y'all touch on tonight and have touched on several times tonight is grants. There are a lot of grants for police departments. There are probably a lot more grants for fire departments than there are police departments. But there's also the grants that we are not touching because we can't touch. But there are grants out there that are for public safety departments as well. And we're talking, just right off the bat, a bunch of money that's just right there at our fingertips. We cannot source that money because we're not a public safety department. Um, so with that, I'll go into what kind of this looks like. So the tip of the organizational chart for a public safety department would be a director of public safety, myself. Underneath that would be a chief of police operations. Right now is Lieutenant Hodge, standing to my left, and a chief of fire rescue operations, which would be Shane Sibley to my right. Breaking that further down, and it's a little hard to see on here. I don't know if I can zoom in a little bit, but breaking that down, there's still two organizational structures that feed off of that. You have a police organizational structure, and you have a fire organizational structure. As you see, this is this is almost exactly like our current organizational structure, minus the title changes: Director of Public Safety at top, and Chief of Police Operations on the for Todd Hodge right below that. Everything else on that organizational structure remains the same. Um, Now, flipping over to the fire rescue operations organizational chart, as you see, and Chief Sibley can explain the difference between the two. One flows up, one flows down, or they still flow down. But yeah, but as you can see, there's a fire chief or the chief of fire operations, and then you have down underneath him the organizational chart flows basically the same as it is now. And then there's another organizational chart that goes into further, shift breakdown and shifting. So A shift, B shift, C shift, and things like that. And I'll let them touch on that as well here in a second. But just right now, I mean, a quick core values for a public safety department. Right now, we're looking at carrying one of them over from the police side, which is professionalism, which is one of our police department core values. And then the service that we provide to the community would be the second. That's a new one for us. I don't know if that's in y'all's core values or not. And then the dedication that we have to serve our community and our region. And so, I mean, that's a quick rundown of the transition plan. Again, the city manager, Dennis, explained that, once we source cross-trained individuals who want to do that, once we source cross-trained individuals that want to, partake in fire department services or police department services, what we would do then is if it became a full-time aspect, where we're doing that with full-time employees or part-time employees, and then we're crossing the organizational charts with those people. There will be future presentations and future discussions related around budget and the opportunity for that. But all in all, we believe that even those discussions further on are still going to continue to save the city money, and we still be able to provide the same high-quality services that we do now individually. So I'm going to turn over the mic to Lieutenant Hodge if he has anything. And then after they're done talking, and after Shane is done talking as well, then we can get back any questions that you may have. Sound good?
Y'all hear me? Okay. So kind of touching on what Shutzi said, Chief Shutzi, right now, it's just still two separate departments under one director. As right now, all three of us sat together and kind of brainstormed and did some strategic planning and talked to city manager. We don't feel at this time that it's beneficial to consolidate all resources because it's a big budgetary hit, and we have to look at what's best for the future for both departments also. So right now, the goal is just to, keep the traditions of both departments together, and then provide the best service that we can to the community.
So, just like Lieutenant Hodge said, this is a consolidation on administrative responsibilities. You will still have a police department. You will still have a fire department. Response will only improve because now, once we're under a unified umbrella, it'll be more collaborative. be working together far more often. It'll be a lot easier if Chief of Operations Hodge says, hey, we want to do this kind of training and we'd like to bring in the fire side. It'll be a lot easier when we're all under one umbrella. It will not affect response. This will not affect training. This will help improve our day-to-day operations. How do we go back to? So a lot of people have seen my organizational chart and they're like, it's upside down. This is something I picked up from a extracurricular training that I went to, and it kind of symbolizes a funnel. So I'm the head of the department. I should be at the bottom supporting all my members above me. If something happens at one of my members and they drop the ball, it goes down. If something doesn't work by there, it gets dropped, it comes down. It pretty much funnels everything to me. So it's my way of symbolizing that I'm here for my members. I'm here to support them. I'm here to lift them up, because at the end of the day, they are the face of the department. I may be the ones behind the scenes that says, hey, this is what we're going to start doing, but they're the ones that are going to implement it. So this is my way of recognizing them, putting them at the top, is, like I said, they're the face. They're the ones you're going to see out there on the calls. So if y'all have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them. So if it's on private property, it would be the property owner. So this is city property then? Okay. Well, we can, if, I'll get with you after this and we can find out. It would fall on the city. It would fall on Public Works, and that's something it's easy. We can talk to them and let them know.
Chief, I have a question for you. I've heard details about fire mitigation plans. None of them have satisfied me. I've heard talk about what we will do with fire mitigation on private properties. What I have not heard is anything about a comprehensive plan for the easements. And I know you know something about that. I wonder if you think that the city has a plan sufficient to prevent an explosive fire event starting in the easements.
So you're exactly right. We have, this is a collaborative effort. As you can see, our fuels mitigation, it falls underneath me, but they're also working collaboratively with Public Works. And we're already looking at how we're going to attack this. It's going to be your easements. That's going to be the first places that we're going to look. And then we're going to go to city-owned property. We're going to do educational messages that we're going to be pushing out on how you can mitigate your own property to lower the risk in the event of a fire. But we are already, my fuel mitigation officer, he's already driving around trying to identify our highest threat areas and what areas we can get to first.
And don't feel left
The
out.
tornado was in May of '24, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
I complained to the council and Mayor Green, I think it was in February, about the situation in the easements. It is now September of '25, and not
It's a big city.
thing has been done.
If I can address that, and I'll address from here, previous council and wearing the badge. First off, it's a big city. I think everybody knows that. I'm not short-sighting your concerns. It's a big city. When council approved the fuels mitigation position, that started a series of steps that needed to take place before Noel Shaver, who's our fuels mitigation officer, could actually start doing his job. And I'll be 100% frank with you. He's been doing his job for a week, because in order for him to start doing fuels mitigation, we had to backfill his position. In order to backfill his position, we had to go through the hiring process. Once council said, let's do the position, let's fund the position, let's make it happen, all of that got started. So Sam, I hear you 100%. It is a very slow process. And believe me, if you know Noel, there's a couple of y'all out there that know Noel.
Great guy.
The dude is busting at the seams, ready to go to work. So
Perfect segue to my question for these guys, actually, because lots of people have approached me with all sorts of questions. Doesn't matter which one of you guys answer it. From your perspective, I'd like to know, is this going to hinder recruitment opportunities for future law enforcement or fire departments, or is this going to help? Like, is the average, I know nothing about law enforcement, but is the average officer going to be like, I want to come work at this place because, or is I going to be like, ooh, I don't want to work at this place? Like, and obviously this is opinion.
Yeah, so great question, Stephen. No, so, and again, this is just a consolidation of the administration portion of this. Future discussions of a combined, all comprehensive public safety department would actually come later if that was where the city was driving us to go. Again, this is just a consolidation of the administration portion. So recruitment of police officers stays the same. Recruitment of firefighters and volunteers on either side, or reserves and volunteers on either side, stays the same. And then again, we would hope that it would increase recruitment for those. Like I said, we are a unique city. Everybody agrees. We use the word unique city around here because there's no other city like another city in the state of Texas, right? We all have different populations, different tax rates, different geography, topography. So what we have had though is we've had through public safety, we've had those individuals who are more comprehensive and have fire background or medical background, and we are attracting those people. And again, we're making sure that on the police department side that that we're training medically, which is something that Chief Fred Churchill started. I don't know, 2015, 2014, somewhere in there. And we have continued that tradition ever since. And now it was actually an option then. Now it's actually built into our job description. So again, we're making sure that we do that anyway from the medical side, because again, we from the police side, we're out 24/7 in a car driving around as a patrol officer. So when a medical call comes in, they're going to be the first ones to respond. Now, where the fire department picks up is we hand that over to the fire department or hire patch trained personnel once they arrived on scene, then to EMS, and then out of the city to the hospital or to further care. So we would hope that recruitment for both sides of the house is increasing, because we've had some firefighters, volunteer firefighters, that are interested in going to the police academy. And again, we're trying to build that in with that is, why not? Why not? You have somebody that wants to do both. Why not?
Do you think it's popular among firefighters and among policemen to join an organization that is unified?
Yeah, so to touch on what Larry said, I don't know where Larry got his information, but we do get along. Now, do we? Yeah, I was just yeah. Okay. Yeah, so unlike them, we do get along. Yeah. Yeah. I was just joking with you, Larry. We do get along. Now, do all police and fire get along? No. Yeah. Right. So we do get along. We do get along. We stay in the same building. We've slept in the same quarters. We've worked in the same situations over and over and over again. And what we've seen is resiliency. Again, if we don't see that happening, we wouldn't see individuals that have either had cross training in fire or EMS or willing to get that now. And we see that. So that goes to show you that we do have that. And like I said, again, we do have some personnel that have left the fire department to go to, as a volunteer, to go to larger paid departments for their full-time job. But they were interested in going to the police academy. It was just making sure that we set that up the right way, and making sure that if they were considering leaving, we're not going to train them and then just send them off to leave. We're making sure that their timing is right and their dedication to the city was right. So yes.
Here's another question. Cross-training sounds great. I mean, there's no argument against that. But does it need a new organizational chart?
So no, again, the organizational charts, as you see, you're combining two organizational charts. It's not a new organizational chart per se. It is combining of the two and joining at the top.
I understand, but couldn't you cross-train the way you are now?
We can, and we do.
And you do.
We do, yes.
But
Yeah, we
what
do.
you don't have is you don't have policies and procedures that will streamline operations. Your training will be more comprehensive. Your deployments, your tabletops, which are used for certain things that we need to start doing here that most cities do to prepare for emergencies. This is a streamlined organization that is controlling the cost, that can be slowed down or sped up as per council in the future decide to do. But your administrative consolidation is to make it more efficient, more responsive to the community than ever before. So there is a process, and it has been more beneficial. Again, I wouldn't recommend it. A lot of times, and Larry, I know what you're saying. I came from public safety, and there's some that didn't get along, but I know there's others that do. But again, something like this wouldn't work in a larger city, especially a large city, or a fast-growing one. But this one here, I think it's doable. I think the city can grow with them, and I think it will be beneficial to everybody, from the administration down to the person receiving that service from either police or fire.
So I just wanted to touch from the fire side. I have worked at other departments where the police and fire are not together, and there is a camaraderie that's a little bit different. It's a whole nother atmosphere when you're housed together. You break bread together. We go have meals together. We celebrate together. We mourn together. We have this relationship that only comes from being side by side through the tornado, through COVID, through
Snowpocalypse.
through Snowmageddon, through the wildfires. We have been there on each other's best days, worst days, anniversaries, birthdays, and kids' birthdays, and children's being born. And this is something that, like I said, from someone that has come from a department that doesn't have two departments housed in one house, it is different. That's where we're different, is we're right next to each other. Half the day, we're bouncing each other stuff off each other's heads, going from office to office, talking, asking each other questions, working on trainings together, just doing whatever we can to support each other. And that's what's great about Morgan's Point.
So you're all pretty much in favor of it?
Absolutely.
I totally appreciate your guys' presentation. I actually have Meet the Teacher tonight, and I'm a teacher. I don't know if you guys, so I'm going to excuse myself, but I wanted to make an announcement so everyone's like, oh, they
Get out. Roxanne, you had a question while
do.
Stephen
I
is
have a
bailing?
I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask. I had the opportunity to do a ride-along with a police officer a couple weeks ago, and several of the police officers came up to me and said, we've been working on this for 3 years. I didn't bring it up because I did not know if it was public knowledge. And they said, we've really been working on this for 3 years and we want it. So this is a perfect time to go through with it. So my question for you, all three of you, is what made you decide, thinking about combining the organizations, why did you want to do it? And then I have a specific question for Matt. I wanted to know, you've been in police for a long time. How do you plan to transition so that you can fairly head up both departments? And then just a side note, what uniform are you going to wear?
Which question do you want me to answer?
Why'd you decide to do it?
I think this is what's right, not only for the citizens, for the city, but for our departments.
trying to take credit for the brains operation, but we had some we had some changes in the city that people may not know about or may know about. And like I said, it's been kicked around for 3 years. It started underneath Andrew, when Dalton, or Andrew Dalton, and then we had discussions with Mr. Dennis over here about it, and with the recent changes in city staffing, and we just felt that this was the time to act on it. You know, we are both departments in a good place. We're good at staffing. Morale's through the roof. So we just figured, hey, we sat down one day and we talked to the guys. First, I talked to Chief because, you know, I'm throwing his name out there, and I went to talk to Dennis. Presented I to Dennis, and he told us to get together, make a plan, and send it to him, and he's been very supportive of it. So this is, if anybody wants to blame anybody, it's been me pushing this. But like I said, I love working with these guys, and I think that when I've been working with Shane for 4 or 5 years now, and 7, sorry. Hey, I'm not married to him, so I just felt like, hey, he'd be a good fire chief, and I could work really good with him. And Shootsy's the brains of the operation, and his budget wizardry is awesome. He's good at getting grants, and I think he'd be beneficial to both departments. So that's where the idea came from. So,
You gonna answer the uniform question?
oh, uniform,
That's for Matt.
t-shirts, blue jeans, probably. I don't know.
Daisy Dukes.
So to touch on both questions, Roxanne, the idea has been thrown around several times because of the size of the city, the availability of personnel to fill both sides of the house. Again, recruiting to become a police, I'll just speak on the police department side for right now. Recruiting to become a police officer is tough as it is, because we're asking you to do things, put yourself on the line for other people that you don't know. We're also asking you to step away from your table each and every day, knowing you might not come back home. You know, we don't have that type of thing, have that type of thing here just yet, but it's not a matter of whether your city can have something like that happen. It's the reality of the job. And so recruiting for police officers has changed over the years. So it used to be the police department came, set up a recruiting table, and each and every one of us in this room did a song and a dance in front of the police department. And they go, it's like getting picked for dodgeball. You know, I want that one. I want that one. You know, tables have turned quite a bit. Now the police department is the recruits are setting up their tables, and each and every police department in the room is coming and doing a song and a dance and trying to give them checks and things like that to get them to be a police officer. So personnel availability is one of them. And so it's been talked about for years of how do we address personnel recruitment on the police department side, and how do we address or fire department recruiting on the fire department side. And that's, again, how it started. You're also talking about the service delivery. If for example, when this was a complete volunteer department outside of your fire chief, when the Billy Richard was here, if you had complete volunteers and nobody answered that radio, who was going to be there to take care of that person medically? And so that's when it began, as the police department will start being medically certified again, because we're here 24/7. Now, since then, staffing and the police department or the fire department has had good staffing and retention, and a plan, an increase to full-time and part-time personnel to cover that. So really, the police department now is kind of back down on the medical. We're not the first responders anymore. We could be, but now the fire department has that ability and is taken back over. We're there to now support them in their mission and in the care of the patient or the resident. So it's been talked about for a while. It's just the timing. And I say timing because you lost one person in the city due to a resignation. I wouldn't say the timing is right now. It's just the timing to have this discussion with a budget is more right than that.
I have a few questions if you're almost done.
Yeah, and then I'm going to answer Roxanne's other question. As far as uniform, the uniforms will stay the same for now. And then as you know, future presentations or future discussions or future involvement of that would change. But most of the time you either see me in this or if I'm presenting or anything, it would be in a, collared shirt, tie, and slacks.
I thought maybe you were going to have a tuxedo on.
No, I haven't worn a tuxedo since high school, so I don't. Well, I guess maybe my wedding, if you count that as a tuxedo. But
Don't forget,
yeah.
she asked you about the fireside. How are you going to bring yourself up to speed
Yes,
on that?
yes. Thank you, Dennis, for reminding me that. So the plan is right now, and Chief Sibley's just standing behind me, rubbing his hands together like yes, in an evil sense. But the plan for right now is to enroll in myself in online fire academy, just like the other volunteers would do. Enroll into online fire academy, take the skills portion, become a TCFP certified firefighter, so that I know. And part of that again is putting hands-on and skills into that firefighting. And then merge into wildland firefighting. So again, anything that over the course of my years, anything that I have tried to lead, again, I have tried to do myself, because again, I can't lead some people. I mean, you can, but it's not effective to lead people on things you haven't done before. And so that would be that's part of that plan.
Okay. I'll just make a comment too. When we looked through all the reports we got from fire and police throughout the year, the majority of calls are medical here. And hopefully it will stay that way. But yeah, so cross-training medically is a very good idea.
And real quick, I just want to say that's the reason I'm still here, because I'm here to help him. I'm here to support him as the director. I'm going to share with him everything that I know. As he's going through this process, I'm going to take him underneath my wing and help him learn so he can be the best that he can be. That's my purpose. And that's the way it should be.
So, I appreciate y'all and, all the buy-in that y'all have to this, and it looks like everybody's dedicated to make it be successful. My question is, do you see any negative aspects to this? Challenges that have come about?
Well, there's always challenges naturally. Now, as far as negativity or anything like that, no. And we'll tell you, like I said, there's always going to be challenges. So the first challenge again is, for me to effectively lead, I need to know again what they're dealing with. I always said, I always joked, I don't want to be a firefighter. I always joked, I don't want to be a firefighter. It's 110 degrees outside. I don't want to put on bunker gear, right? That's going to make me even more hotter than it already is outside ambiently. And then just crawl into an oven and shut the door, right? I don't want to do that. It doesn't seem appealing, right? But then again, on the fire department side, they're like, well, I don't want to have maybe bullets shot at me either, so I'll take the fire department side. So, I've always said that. But again, to effectively lead, that's part of the challenge is I need to know what they're doing and I need to do it as well. And then trust in the guys. So there are some challenges, but I will tell you what a lot of people think on challenges would be morale and things like that. Believe it or not, this has been, since the previous, I don't know if it was a workshop where Dennis mentioned it, briefly touched on it for about 15, 20 seconds. Then it spread like, and I'll use the word wildfire, it spread like wildfire, and no pun intended. We have gotten a lot of feedback from inside, and morale is still climbing. On whether this is approved or not, morale again is still climbing. And so a lot of people thought that part of the challenge, as I think Larry touched on, was morale, or somebody else touched on the low part of this time right now and the changes that the city is occurring. In this case, would be naturally a challenge, but we're seeing a drastic improvement in that, and that's something to be said. Does that answer your question, Bruce?
Dorothy.
Yeah, so you guys have been talking about this for 3 years, and the council just found out about it and the residents just found out about it on August 25th. So keep that in mind. This is just put on us, and we have maybe a week to discuss it, get a presentation, and make a decision. So one of my questions is, do we want to slow it down? Do you want to go get all the training that you need, make sure you like it. Make sure this is what you want. I don't want to do it and then find out, oh, we have to undo it. So I'm concerned about that. So maybe you go get all your training. Maybe we give Sibley a chance to step in, be the interim fire chief. It's working. Residents love it. Firefighting, I mean, wildfires are a huge priority, and you're all going to be real involved in that with our fire mitigation person. And then the other thing I've heard, so give us time to process. And then the other thing I've heard is it's supposed to be a cost saver. So does anybody have any estimates of what is in the budget that you have put in the budget for any type of cost savings? Not that that matters, but it's a factor.
I know we're running out of time. We got a public hearing coming up. But, well, we can always recess. I think the mayor knows that.
Yeah, we're not done.
We're not done, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to recess out of the workshop into the regular session and then come back into the workshop because I know there are still a lot of budget questions.
We haven't even discussed it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still getting presentations. Yeah.
So just to briefly touch on that, Dorothy, yeah, the cost saver is naturally reducing having two administrators over two departments instead of one administrator over over both departments.
But that will come with a pay increase of some sort and come with a lot of additional training, which has a cost to it.
Yes.
So how does it net out, I guess, is the.
Yeah, so the benefit of training, again, I touched on grants earlier. The benefit on fire department side is if it's fire department training, there are numerous grants, I mean, countless grants out there, which is what they've been capitalizing on ever since.
Don't want to lose that, right?
Right. And so it will remain the same. And that was what we will capitalize as well to take advantage of the training as well. And then what was your other question as far, and as far as the specific
Well, I was
numbers,
hoping for
you'll
a
have to-
number. I was hoping for a number. What have you budgeted in the budget for any type, and maybe it's zero because it all nets out. But the residents are concerned that maybe we're doing this to save money, and I just want to put the number out there. So I don't think it's very big,
So,
but I don't know.
fire department side, we budget training every year to get
Right.
people trained. So
So that's
we-
neutral.
it's already, yeah, it's a wash. So for fire training, we're gonna get most of, if he wants to go get classes, it's gonna be grant funded. So, and what we already have in our training budget, it's already been lined out that we're gonna be sending people to fire academy. We're gonna be sending people to go get their EMT. So it's already in there. It's just who's gonna be the one that goes.
Okay, so there's a wash. I just want to get it on the
Well,
table.
I was going
There is a
to,
wash as far as this change is concerned relative to a financial impact.
and there's a little bit of a savings because that one position, the salary and benefits that would have cost is, there's some adjustments in these, in positions, but there's still probably, I'd say about a half of it, probably 60 grand or better. Okay. That's moved into other things.
Sure, and they should be compensated, right. Okay, that's my question, yeah, okay.
Matt, can you hold that thought? We need to recess out of the workshop so we can take care of business and then come back and, because like I said, I know we have. So what I'm going to do is, this will give council 2 minutes to take care of business. So we will recess the workshop at 5:58 and we will convene the regular session momentarily.
I sent you.
Shane, if you got to roll, I got you. If you got to bounce.
We won't be here till 8 o'clock tonight. I know.
this is what we got. So see, it has, this is the general fund. And then it should say. And then general, and then see, that's fire. Okay, well, thank my goodness. So, but it's compared to budget, to budget, to budget, to budget. So that's, it needs to be the actual, I had already sent Mary a note on that.
What?
The minute I got it, I remember you. So I know it's active. Fund view, all she has to do is format that report. Oh, no, 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 Mary just needs to select, instead of selecting budget, select, you know.
All right, folks, if we can start making our way.
Okay, regular
Yeah.
session, and I guess you have that?
Yeah, I've got Jermaine's again. I'll just read that back into the.
Ask the question I wanted to ask too. And that is, okay, this is all great, what are the downsides?
There's no action taken with citizens.
Yeah. Yep.
And then after that, just go on, just close the hearing.
Yeah.
Or if it's not, how much? Oh. I'll take the cold one.
All right.
Thank you. Would you like a water to go with your Dr. Pepper?
Oh, no, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Can't ruin my caffeine. My balance will get off.
Okay, we're getting started a few minutes late. I've got 6:07, sorry for you civilian folk. So we will call the regular session to order at 6:07 PM. And we will start with invocation. If you'd all stand, we'll do invocation, pledge of allegiance, and we'll roll right into it.
Let's pray. Dear God, I just thank you for this city. I thank you, Lord, for all the concerned residents, for our great staff, hard workers. And I thank you, Lord, that you love us. You love each of us in this city, and you love this city. So we ask you for your wisdom and guidance tonight as we make decisions and as we discuss different issues. Help us to each listen and be reasonable and understanding and figure out what's the best for the city. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's what I can't do. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Yeehaw!
Exactly.
All right, we will kick off with citizens' comments. Again, I do want to point out, and this is entirely up to the residents. You can talk once, you can talk both times. So I do have the sign-up sheet for public comment. Also to laws. So I've got JoJo, I saw you, but we're going to read yours still, or what? Okay, so you're a false start. All right.
You already started.
5-yard penalty, false start. Misty Ballard, I saw Misty's here.
Misty Ballard to Admiral Circle. How are y'all today?
Great.
I came home today and I was like, I just want to stay home and spend time with my baby girl. And it was the darndest thing. I went to go delete some posts from the friendly page, the friendly Morgan's Point page. And I've been deleted and blocked from it. And I've been nice all week. I know, it's the damnedest thing, ain't it? So, let's make some better use of our time. I used to get so frustrated about NPR taxes, and someone pointed out that the smaller population and having a lot to do with that, because you have all the things in this city that have to be taken care of, just like it does City of Belton, City of Temple. So you have all those things, but you only have a couple of people here to take care of it. So that kind of makes sense whenever it comes to the taxes. Y'all know I get nervous in front of people, so I do talk a little fast. But you take those taxes and you talk about raising those taxes. I'm a single mom. I work my happy little butt off trying to take care of that kid. And it is not an easy thing. I've worked with budgets for years. I understand y'all got to stretch money. So, money that we have seen spent this year. We had a buttload of money that went to roads, which our citizens now, they call them painted on roads, which is a wonderful thing because I'm sure that was some very expensive paint. We have issues with employees where we're talking about how much they're making. And at the same time, we're talking about the mistakes that they're making. We have a minimal amount of time to review this budget. So nobody knows what's going down. It's been consolidated. You can't figure out the numbers. Nobody knows where anything is going. So it's a little hard to have faith in where this money is going. Now, I understand that y'all put a lot of time into this, but I also understand that most of y'all are retired. You probably have a buttload of exemptions to go towards your taxes, and not to take offense, but a lot of times you're not even here at the meetings. You're trying to figure out another way from vacation how to do it. Again, I am a single mom working her butt off, and I want to know that if you're going to raise my taxes, it's going to go to the right place. I understand we have a lot of issues going on with this city. I've had confrontations with some of our newer employees who said their unsatisfactory time here is the reason that I'm dealing with attitude. Y'all need to take a look at the fact that this is not just a city manager issue. This is not just who he's hired issue. The ultimate responsibility is here. Y'all are supposed to be representing us. It doesn't matter who you hired. Y'all are the ones that take care of all of this. You have a chain of command. It starts at city council. It goes down to city manager. It goes down to the employees. It goes down to the citizens. You were voted in to take care of the citizens. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm relatively sure that you know this, right now, your citizens are not pleased. Now, I feel really mean saying that because I'm sure you have great big hearts, but y'all need to do a little bit better on this.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I've been asked by Joanne to read hers into the record again for regular session, so I will do so. Joanne Durkee, 54 South Cliffwood Circle. She's not here. I'm going to cut that part out. She's not able to attend tonight. So proposed budget for FY 25-26 only has numbers on it. This is nothing. There is nothing that tells which numbers are for which department. I've repeatedly asked for the legend for the city budget for the 25-26 year so that I can put it on the website so the residents will know which department has which numbers. As it is, only the financial staff and department heads know where the numbers of their specific budgets go. The public deserves to know how much of their money each department is receiving. Why is the library under the Director of Administrative Services and not a separate city entity on its own, like Public Works, Public Utilities, City Enforcement, and Safety? The library has a budget like the other departments, yet it doesn't have its own director. Yes, it is manned by volunteers, but that would be alleviated if the city would hire an employee to oversee the library. I notice there's no communications department. Has that been dissolved? May I ask why? I do not believe the elimination of a separate fire chief and police chief is in the best interest of the city. As it is now, the police chief doesn't have time to return calls, texts, or emails to the residents, which a lot of residents have told me he has said to them because he's too busy in the office. If he is that busy only being the police chief, how is he going to handle both jobs? Has he been trained in firefighting? If not, how much will it cost for the city to send him to receive the training? There is a lot about the fire department about which he does not know, and I feel the residents will suffer under both the combination of both departments. Please keep the departments separate. Thank you, Jaman. You're welcome, Jaman. Okay, Donna Hartman.
I'm going
Okay, deferring to public comment. Larry.
Matt, I didn't see you say anything to Jim Ann when she said that. I still feel the same. I'm still against it. And just so I'm clear, Dennis Baldwin, I'm glad you're here. I've always been glad you're here because your previous statement in the meeting showed why you were here. We had a lot of things that weren't done by 3 city managers prior to you, and there's bills that weren't paid that you're getting done. But also, the council, I would recommend you watch because we now have opportunities to obtain more money through grants. Well, after this next audit's done. So there'll be more money in the coffers because I think since this happened, we've lost about $3 million not being able to go out for grants because we didn't have audits. So there's money on the table there that the taxes won't show, but we can still get. The police department, I'm sure, can get it, and the fire department has got it. And Mr. Shibley, I disagree with you. I don't think your response time will be any quicker because you guys are pretty darn quick now, if that's what I understood you say. But I still wouldn't vote for it. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate the council because the best thing that I've seen this council, well, Sam, you're still undecided yet, but the best thing with this council is you take your time, you don't let people influence you too much, and you make those good decisions. Thank you. I wrote it down. Larry Hartman, 112 Great West Loop, 765139015.
Thank you, Larry. Miss Nancy.
So I can talk pretty loud because the microphone is out of my reach. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we need to get you on record.
For the recording.
Why don't you stay here and I'll
There's people at home that needs to hear that.
A little lower, little lower. No, that's good. Now I can't talk too loud. Okay, I moved here in 2017. The community center was getting upgraded, so it would be accessible to those of us who use wheelchairs or other assistive devices. Notice this evening, the microwave is definitely not going to work. The pool, the seat that is supposed to lift you up and put you in the pool is actually a rechargeable battery. And the problem is because no one really uses it that often, the lifeguards don't charge it overnight. So I don't know if I can go to the pool or not. And $10 for 3 hours, I can't do that. As I said about the fire hydrant, that's getting taken care of. It actually took me 6 years to get my trash picked up on a regular basis. So I'm hoping that will improve. Also, the taxes. I lived in Temple and I lived here. Now, both of those cities, to my understanding, are within Bell County. I'm wondering why Morgan's Point does not have any type of exemptions. And it wouldn't have to be just for those 65 and over. You could just have a basic straight homestead exemption, which would then, everyone would get one if they lived here. But those who were retired, they would still benefit well. Would cover everyone. There are exemptions for 65 and older, disabled, et cetera, and vets, but the homestead exemption would at least cover everybody.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let me get myself organized here. All right, first thing on the consent agenda tonight is we're going to hold a public hearing 25009, to receive community input on the 25-26 budget. So I will open the public hearing at 18:20. Residents, this is an opportunity for you to address council and discuss things on the budget as you see fit, or things that you would like council to consider or address. Who's first? We don't have a sign-up sheet for that, so Donna, if you would like to start?
Donna Hartman, 112 Great West Loop. Good evening. Once again, I would like to thank the staff and the council for the time you devoted to this budget. It's been on the website for a couple of weeks, and I appreciate all the work that you have in preparation for this meeting tonight. I'm going to kind of just recap what I said before the workshop. Too bad y'all missed it, but I'll recap it real quick and try to take up my 3 minutes with some of my recommendations. One, I asked the council if they would breathe a little bit. There's been a lot of changes in our city. I ask that you keep the tax rate the same as we had last year. This will still generate more money, as most of our properties, the assessments have gone up. I also ask that you consider not doing the fees at this time. I think it is a burden to people on a fixed income and our lower income families to do this, especially when everyone would not be paying for it. It would be attached to the water bills. I compared it to the maintenance fee that we used to have. Those of you that lived out here, it was not equitable because not everybody paid it. The more subdivisions we got in, the more HOAs took over, and they weren't paying the maintenance fee. So I'd like to see something a little more equitable. And you know, I'm not opposed to user fees. I mean, I understand what Dennis is saying. You know, we've got to generate some money. Brush is number one even over the roads, in my opinion. But I think we could do user fees. We're used to user fees. We pay to use our marina. We could pay to use the bins instead of getting them free. And this way, only the people that needed them would be paying for it, not everybody. We could also pay a fee maybe to go to the quarterly cleanup, to dump our dump trucks. Not everybody uses that. This way, user fees are for people that use them and not everybody sharing the burden that may not be able to take advantage of them. And that's just my opinion. I'm so happy about these audits. I can't even tell you how proud I am of you. Grants are the key to everything in getting money for our city. We have 2 done. I understand we're having a public hearing on the 23rd for the 3rd one. And then I heard Dennis say tonight, by November, December, we should probably finish the 4th one. Congratulations and thank you so much. We lost thousands and thousands of dollars by not being able to do that and being 4 years behind. So one, I think that will help us. I think we need to look at grants in our parks because we're going to do a big project at Ansay Park. Maybe get EDC involved. They were phenomenal with Clappus Park. The city did in-kind work, so it didn't take money out of city revenues, but it contributed to the in-kind. I think that we can look at the contingency fund. We have to have one. I agree with Dennis 100%, maybe not quite as much. Also, have we got the final check for FEMA? I don't think we have yet, but if we haven't, is that obligated to a certain thing? Can that maybe help us with the brush? Are the TCEQ requirements the same? They really cut back on the number of times that we could burn brush. Those brush burns were TCEQ approved, so I'm hoping they'll work with us a little bit better, but maybe have they lightened up a little bit more of the brush requirements. So those are just a few things to look at. We've got that 1/4% for sales tax for roads. We may need to think about taking our budgeted road money and putting so much toward roads and so much like for brush. And I think y'all did that this year, and I think that was very successful. Anyway, those are just a few ideas. We want to look after our elderly. We want to look after our low-income people and people on fixed budgets. And I think maybe keeping the tax rate the same and not doing those fees might really help us. Thank you. Right on time.
Yeah, actually, so, and not actually. City manager has informed me that he has an answer for one of your questions, if you would like to hear it.
Yeah, you ask a lot, though. No, the FEMA funds that are pending, we've got the vegetative debris cleanup, that's been paid in full. It's $674,000. We have another check. We don't know how much it's going to be, but it's for the roofs, the damage and stuff to the roofs. Now, it could be sizable. It could be 250, whatever, or more. It could be 200 to 300,000. We'll say that. But I don't have the exact amount. There's no way to plan for it because they haven't released that to us. But the important thing is to take care of what it's supposed to be used for, dedicated, because the roofs are bad, and it's better to get them replaced and use the money then, because they won't pay for it a second time if we don't. So that's it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Everybody's welcome. Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Denise, you're not going to say anything tonight? I'm putting you on the spot. Okay. Residents, anything else? Any other discussion on the budget from our citizens? Not tonight. Okay. All right. Then I will go ahead and
Want
close.
to say that there's going
Yes,
to be
ma'am.
another public hearing on the budget? Because we have 2 public hearings on the budget.
Well, one of them's for the tax, dealing with the notice that went out today, and that's going to be on the 15th, and that's for, there'll be, it's for the tax rate to hear the public comments first, set the tax rate at the end of that, and then I think the other items on the agenda are to talk about the process for September the 23rd, and there's certain action items that's by law required, so that's
So
what.
we only have 1 public hearing on the
You
budget?
actually have one, this one's required by Texas Local Government Code, and that's the one where the citizens get to come in and provide input. You have another one required by the tax code, and that's where citizens get to come in and provide input on the preliminary tax rate.
Okay, so that's the 2.
That's the-
Yeah.
Okay.
6 o'clock. Yes, ma'am. 6. Okay. No other discussion or comments from the residents. I'll close the public hearing at 18:27, 6:27. Stop whistling. And we will move on to consideration of the minutes of regular session for city council meeting on August 12th, 2025, motion 25021. Council, I will accept a motion to approve those minutes, and then we can open for discussion. So I've got Sam with a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
I'll be glad to second.
Dorothy with a second. Council, any discussion or changes needed on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0 on the vote. Finance Director update.
For those of you who are in the room, there is a PowerPoint behind you if you want to look at it.
And in front.
Oh, there's one there too. Oh, nice.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I wanted to start off with letting you all know, or I think everybody got a copy of the revenue and the expenditure report. But since our focus has been the budget, this presentation is going to be relatively short. I did notice that we needed to give an update on our investment, on the balances that we have.
Mary, if you could just get it a little bit closer so we can pick it up on the.
Okay.
video.
In your packet that you have, of course, you have the routine, the bank, what we have right now in our accounts with the bank. You also have a copy of what I have on the screen. I don't know if I can make it bigger. Yeah. On text pool on our investments, we have 2 accounts with text pool, and that's this sheet that you have right here. It's just the summary, but it's on the screen. It's we have $241,089. That's part of our investment portfolio that we have. We have 2 accounts, which is the general text pool account and then the text pool prime. And the summary that you have that I provided for you was from October 1 of this year up to now, August 31st. And then next month I'll give you the balance for the whole fiscal year, what we received total in those accounts. Okay. And then, of course, you have the bank accounts that show you right now what our balance is for our pool cash. Right now, what we have in our sweep account, which has some funding, and then pretty much the amount of money that we get on our, the interest that we get on our principal is deposited to that account, so that's been going up. This is what I give you, and then that's the balance on the loan that we currently have.
So for cash, we add pooled cash and sweep together.
Yes, ma'am. So the next thing that you have, of course, the city manager, Dennis, Mr. Baldwin brought up the update on the audits. We have scheduled, and they have pretty much confirmed September the 23rd of 2025 to release our audit and the single audit both together, is what we've been told. Audit 2324, we've already, internally had already begun collecting some of the documents that we know we're going to be needing. The share folders have already been created by the auditor, so we'll be officially starting next week or in 2 weeks, as soon as they give us the list. We'll start putting the information into the shared documents. So we'll be full-fledged within the next couple of weeks, starting with the 2324 audit.
Mary, also in regards to that, it's important for council to know that all the documents that were stored has already been gone through by you and the team, if you will, that you've pulled together to do that. So there's no more searching. We know what we got, and they've already been consolidated for the audit, so it shouldn't take long to provide what we do have. No, I don't know what we're missing, but
Yeah, the hardest
anything.
thing about the 2223 audit was Officer Hodge over here helped me go to the storage unit, grab boxes, and we literally had to go through boxes and go page by page, file by file, which was really time consuming for 2223 for some of the items that we couldn't find. So although they gave us the list and we submit items, as a matter of fact, what was it, 2 days ago, I got one more request for the 2223 audit. And so thank goodness we were able to pull that out and get that in. So as of today, again, for like, I don't know, the 100th time, we've turned in everything that they've asked for. And they assured me pretty much on the email that was the last, we shouldn't get a follow-up. So we're still scheduled for September the 23rd. The 2324 audit, like Dennis mentioned, we've already organized everything that we could find from the storage units, from the filing cabinets. It's all been alphabetized. It's all ready to go. And so that was one of the biggest obstacles that we had for the 2223 audit, was actually locating a lot of the items. So yeah, that's like, that was a big heavy lift. And of course, the bank reconciliations for all 2324 are already done. So we really are hoping that the 2324 audit will happen pretty quick, you know. So we'll see. Hopefully there's nothing missing that we just can't find, but if they ask and we can't find it, well then we can't find it. And so that's a big load off. So what the auditors will be doing, I know I mentioned before, I was trying to clean up 2324 and 2425. I know Steven's here, and we've had so much fun with all those pay apps because some of it was from prior years. So we met with the auditor specifically on this topic, and what they're going to do is, as we go through the 2324, and right now what I already have downloaded for everything for 2425, they're going to do the journal entries and take care of what needs to be in 2324 and move what needs to stay in 2425. So we won't have to worry about that monster. And then when they finish, we'll be able to bring you the report that you wanted, what the total cost is. Because when I went in to review what I could through bank records, some stuff was saved that would say like JM Pipeline, some things would say, you know, J Morales. Some of them just have invoice numbers, some of them just have amounts. I literally have to search the amount to try to figure out and match it if it goes with that payment. So for the auditors. So it's right now we have everything that I really feel we're ready to go, and I'm kind of excited to get this like taken care of, because it is something that it is time consuming. But again, I want to thank the staff, especially like Steven. He's helped out a lot with the pay apps. And so I mean, he's been wonderful. And of course, Amanda's not here, but I don't think I could be standing without Amanda, you know. And I want you to know that everybody knows there has been, we have been very short-staffed, and Amanda has been a trooper. I don't think, if you're listening, Amanda, because she said, do I have to go? And I said, no, because she's exhausted. I said, no. And she said, I'll go. And I said, no, you go home and you rest, because I need you. As Dennis always tells me, he needs us for the long haul. And so I know the residents may have concerns. I just really want for you all to please know that the city manager and the staff care about the city. And I, I feel like that just kind of needs to be stated. We are working as hard as we can, as diligently as we can. And Stephen, you know, and Jerry, they've helped out a lot. Shootsy's helped out with some of the grant stuff. It really has been a team effort, but it's trying to recover so many documents that we've been unable at times to get them. And we've even called vendors, begged, asked. They've called other people to help us get some of the documents for the 22, 23 audit. So I really, it has been time consuming, and it has been a lot of repeated requests from the auditors. 23, 24, I'm hoping should go a lot smaller. 24, 25, I think it's going to be a breeze. 25, 26, I'm not even worried about it, because I already know we have the module that we've already started. The staff has it's been a lot of change, but I want you to know that when they do a requisition, just so that everybody knows, when that gets approved, they sign the shipping, they sign the receipt, it gets uploaded. All the invoices are now at our fingertips. And that could not be done if we didn't have the staff. Fire department, one of the departments that does the most. I want you to know that Mr. Sibley, Chief Interim Sibley, pretty much has entered in every single thing from day one. And when we had to go back to October, we had all these late invoices. There was no way we could do it. Shootsy, but Sibley, he went back and he did them all. And so I just want the city to know that it has been a task, but it wasn't just done by myself. It was done with a team, with a city in mind. And so I know that things may be a little tough right now, but I promise you it will get better. I really do. We'll be able to get funds now to help the city meet its potential. You have a gym here. Now I can say I'm from here because I work here, but I really do like the city. I love the city, and I think we really do have a good team. I really do. So if you have any questions on anything, on what I've given you, I'm here to answer questions.
Mary, I sent you an email while I was sitting here. I wasn't ignoring you. I was actually sending you an email reminding you once again to please send me the documentation that we need to fill out for the auditors.
Oh, yes.
Because I continue to neglect to do that.
Okay. I'll send it out
So-
again, and then you'll get one for 24, 25.
And if you would like to pass on to Amanda, I've seen all of her hard work. Let her know I'll buy her a drink at Backyard Monday afternoon. They're closed Monday.
Well, I talked to the city manager, and I told him that not this week because we're still like trying to get through, but we want to have like a luncheon and just celebrate everybody, because everybody has played a role in us surviving. We have Tammy, who's new. We have Jay, that's been helping us. You know, I just can't. Stephen Pitts, we had Cassidy up there, we had Landon over there. So many people have helped us keep the city running. And so I know we're not perfect, because nothing in life is perfect, but I want you to know that everybody's giving 100% for the residents. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. City Manager, your time, sir.
Yes, Mayor and City Council, just a lot of the stuff's already been, and I'll highlight what hasn't been. TxDOT, the sidewalk project, the engineering is done about 90%, and that is planned to be sent out, if you will, let the contract in November. So we'll start seeing some movement with that. The last reimbursement I talked to you about from FEMA, we know what it's going to be used for. We don't know the amount. It was not included in the budget because it's just going to move temporarily from there into the fund balance based off of the, if it's strictly for roofs, then obviously the general fund will receive most of that. KPA, I talked about it during the presentation, civil
Can I just make
engineer.
a comment on FEMA?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it is money that we are going to receive, but we already had to disperse the funds to pay for all this. So this is a reimbursement.
No, these are the damages that were not covered. We haven't done the roofs, and this is for roof
Okay, so
money.
when we get the money in, though.
That's why I'm saying it really should be used, because if not, they will
Absolutely.
not reimburse it in the future, and we'll have to show documentation it was in case there is another
Yes.
problem. So, yeah.
It's not like extra money.
No, this is to repair the things that we have. It's going to either come out of city coffers, or if we can get the funds from the storm, why not? And I just don't know the number and which ones are going to be fully covered. We'll find that out, and it'll be coming to you all, because we'll have to recognize that revenue and get it put in there. KPA is, I don't even know their name. I always call them KPA, civil engineer. Somebody probably knows them better than I do. But they are out of Temple, and they are the ones that council approved a contract with. We did an RFQ, and there's the one, there was two of them, I think, but that's the one that stood up heads above no, there was 5 or 6, I think. 6. And that was the one that was heads above the rest. And one of the things they did recommend, and we talked about it earlier, is critical infrastructure assessment, which is really the best path forward to tell us where our priorities should be as a council. You all will be able to make that decision, and you'll have something factual, independent of comments from staff or legacy understanding, what have you. It's a good way to get a good set of eyes on it to give us a path forward. In that, critical infrastructure is one aspect of it. And of course, we know that elevated storage tank number 2 sprung a leak. It's been patched. They're going to be looking at that too. That may very well be one of the earlier on projects, but right now it is holding, and we have no reason to think it won't hold. It looks like it's doing fine, but it should last long enough for us to work through this issue. The other thing is, like I said earlier, was a conceptual design for John Ainsley Park. I think, I know the park committee is ready. I know council's ready. I know the community over that area are ready to see change and movement. We've explained to some of the residents in that area that we've had conversations with the process we're using, and they said, okay, well, that makes sense, and they're just happy that council's moving that project forward, and understand there's going to be a transition time from the time we get the engineering, the conceptual design and the engineering identification of the infrastructure to the actual bringing that project to fruition. But we're going to also use in-house talent. Public Works will be doing the landscape and stuff like that. So we'll be getting it at cost. It's not, there's some benefits to the way we're approaching it, I think. And so I think everybody will be happy with starting seeing some movement on that. The water well permits, there is engineering funding set aside in there for that, but it's for their permits. We need to lay claim to that water rights, if you will. It's probably the not right words, but we need to definitely get our permits in, because there's a lot of companies, especially from outside the areas, going for that same aquifer. And we definitely, given how tight water is going to be in the future, I think we're at 19 years or 18 and a half years left on our contract. We need to move forward with it, but there's no sense in doing anything major until we see, again, find out how much money we're dealing with the audits. There is funding in there to get the permits through, and it's an engineering-driven process. But that's in there, but that's okay, because that once we get them, that we know we've got that part out of the way, and TCEQ is on board with us. Smith Park improvements, that's already been fleshed out. But if it's not done in the next 2 weeks, it won't be. We will do, like I said, we'll do that budget carry forward, and in the fiscal year closeout, all that stuff will be done, but that money will be moved to this future fiscal year, the fiscal year 26, and we'll still be able to get the same things done. And then and I think that's probably it, except for the 23rd, which is a very critical date to get the budget adopted. There was some concerns about the process the city used via email. That was checked on with TML by the finance director, and they said no, that they said you're fine. So we're comfortable there. Okay. Other than that, that's all I have. Oh, one other thing, the audit engagement letters have already been approved by council to execute for both 24 and 25. So the auditors we have that engagement letter, they know what to do, and we have funding set aside in a new budget for those 2 audits. That's it. Thanks, sir.
Certainly. Okay, real quick before we wrap that, council, we do have the proposed agenda for the 15th, which is to set the 23rd as the actual adoption of the budget and ratifying the tax rates and everything. I do have a request. I just want to get this out to everybody for a 4 p.m. Workshop prior to that again, just like we did tonight. So, and it's to continue to discuss budgetary issues for council. Dennis, does that work for you?
The notice requirements, what I don't know.
So we talked about that, and I think we
Yes, we have, if it went out in the morning or tonight.
It'd have to go out tonight, I think.
Yeah.
So this is what, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we still have the 3 days. So.
It was requested about 3 weeks ago. Somehow it fell through the cracks. Yeah, so.
Well, okay, so if you can get it out tonight, let's go ahead and put a workshop on that. There'll be no action items, it's just a workshop.
Yeah, essentially just a repeat of that one. If we can do that, please, that will give council an opportunity. This was tonight's.
Yeah, because this is our first workshop for the budget, and we haven't started workshopping yet. We've just had presentations. So I think we really need to discuss this over a couple budget workshops before we approve it.
Yeah, so council, I wanted to throw that out there to you. We can put it on the calendar. I know it's a week out, but if you can make it, please try to make that. Bring your questions to the table, so to speak, if that works. Right, is it doable? Can we make that happen? Yeah, so essentially what we did tonight, just moving that to next Monday on the 15th. Bear with us. Can we get that out? Okay.
Yeah,
More to follow.
I didn't see it till about 4 o'clock today, or 3:30 today, so.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. I think that does that work?
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry, I think, since we kind of ran a little longer on that tonight. So, okay, real quick, once around the horn, council, anything for residents? Anything? Sam, Neil, anything before we go
Well,
back into the workshop?
I want to thank the staff for, giving us the presentation tonight on the combined fire and police, because there's been a lot of questions without any answers up to this point. So I really appreciate that. And Mary, thank you for plowing through these audits and plowing through records and getting us, back on track. And of course, I really appreciate all the emails I've gotten and all the input I've gotten for the budget and for different things that have come up in our city over the last, I don't know, year at least. It's been pretty active, but I do appreciate it.
I just really appreciate all the involvement from the citizens. We're seeing a lot of citizens that have gotten involved, whether it's good, bad, or in between. That's what we want to hear. It helps us in doing our job. Also, just kind of piggyback on what she's saying is the department heads and Mary getting to the audits and getting all the paperwork done that needs to get found and getting these audits moving ahead. Dennis is well involved in that, all members of staff. I am just excited beyond belief that we are finally going to get these audits done. Been plowing through that for countless years. So, yeah, just hats off.
I'm really hopeful after the meeting tonight. I'm hopeful for our city, and I think we're going to keep a really good city. And we had some bumps along the way, but I think we've got some really good leadership. We've got concerned people, and I think we even have some Morgan's Point residents working for us now, so that's great. So thank you.
Okay, council, that covers everything on a regular agenda. According to Robert's Rules of Order, I can go ahead and adjourn us on my own because I'm a big boy now. So I got 18:50. We will adjourn the regular session. I would to give council 10 minutes since we didn't have it before. We will reconvene back into the workshop at 7 p.m.
Carol.
I didn't know that, but I never thought I would look it up. Say sitting is the new diabetes. No, I'm not. So we're not gonna take any action. On Monday, we just accepted
last week when you asked about that.
We'll see you later.
County position, which is
Well, the city would never take mine. You got your calculator out there?
He's ready to go.
It's the master calculator, buddy. If I don't know the answer.
All right, fair people of Morgan's Point Resort. All right, I'm gonna go as we still have residents departing, coming and going. What did I do with my notes? I gave you you have the public comment sign-in sheets. I gave you those. Looking for my other notes. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and reconvene back into the workshop at 7 p.m. We have our police and fire representatives are still here. Dorothy, I know there were still some questions and concerns that you had. What I would like to do is pick up right there on that so that we can cut those guys loose to go do whatever it is they do whenever they do it. So reconvening at 1900. Okay.
Well, I was going to discuss it with the rest of council, so I consider this part of the budget discussion then with council. So we
Yeah.
can all chime in, and Stephen's not here, so we need to take that into consideration. But, so this is the first I've seen your presentation, okay, and I really appreciate it, because up to this point, you know, all I heard was combining, and so then I did a bunch of research, and of course, the research freaked me out. It's like looking at WebMD on a, for your symptoms. But, so I do have some concerns. Number one, this is, and I've gotten feedback from residents and stuff too, so some of this is all that. But number one, this is an area in our city that is really working for us right now. Our residents love our fire department. They kind of love our police department, but it's a different animal. It's a strength of our city to keep it in the traditional fire and police structure. A high priority for our city, and we've said this and we'll continue to say it, is our threatening wildfires and the debris cleanup. Why would we cut funds from our fire department when that is a life-threatening issue for our city? And then this is more for Dennis, but we have so many other priorities in the city. With the employee turnover, new employees, significant changes are still in process. Why would we implement this significant change now? Let's let the areas of our city that are broken get fixed before we take on more changes, especially those changes directly affecting our residents when they have not had input into this. Get the audits done, replace key employees, get the system conversions working, develop and implement the wildfire plan. We don't have one yet, Sam. I mean, like Jimbo said, he was just put in place. We need to have that plan and understand it and communicate it to the residents. Start implementing financial discipline with analysis and reporting. Start looking for external funds to supplement our property taxes. And the biggest one for me is communication. Is just such a high priority for our city. They say it every time they come in here. The question is for me also, is this right for Morgan's Point? It's a significant change, and I didn't understand the transition plan before you presented it. Why now? Why don't we give Sibley a chance? Let him be our new interim fire chief. Maybe get Matt trained, move in that direction. But do we have to agree to a significant organizational change when I've heard it's budget neutral? Why do we need to make this decision during a budget workshop on something that we can make a decision 6 months down the road? Get in, do what you can, get your feet wet. Matt, go get trained. Make sure this is what you want to do. We don't want to unwind it. I think my personal opinion is, and I'm not a police officer or a fire person, but I think there's different service motivations between the two departments. I know you're cross-trained, and I love it, and that is a strength of our city, which I think makes our public service better for our residents. But I view these departments differently. Their motivations, their training, their focus on why they're here and what they do in public service. And then the last one is, does it really save us any cost? My understanding so far is there's some payroll savings, and there's some training, and there's some increase in pays. Our fire department has a unique combo of volunteers and employees, something our police department does not. That's something Matt's going to have to get up to speed on, I think. We don't want to lose our volunteers in the city for our fire department. So I've got some concerns. I understand you've talked about all the benefits, and I understand that public safety wants this. The employees are asking for it. The leadership of our public safety wants it. But I am just asking, can you go get your feet wet for about 6 months or so, go get trained, and then we can address it then without being forced to make a decision in a budget process that we literally have only 2 weeks to consider everything in the budget. And again, if it's budget
Question.
neutral, why is it even a budget item?
Question then, would you, I'm just, for Dorothy, we don't have a fire chief right now. Now, would you just hold off on hiring a fire chief?
Yeah,
Then
our
the
interim.
fire department will be one short.
Right.
So, because currently, our previous fire chief and, is it Lieutenant Sibley?
Battalion Chief Sibley.
Battalion chief. I'm not good with titles, I'm
Now
sorry.
you're interim.
Yeah.
Interim fire
Right,
chief.
interim
And
fire
so
chief.
now you're interim, plus if we held off on this, then you would have 2 jobs
Correct.
for a time. Okay, so
But we
that's,
still have shared resources.
we,
So we have policemen that can go on EMS calls. We are not losing anything. Well, we're losing our fire chief, which is, unfortunate. And, but can we take a breath, not to use Donna's terms, but can we take a breath and let's get through this period of time that we're already in a transition?
so we're not looking at hiring a fire chief in the interim? Because that would, to me, that would be like you've just shut the door on it then.
I would say no.
Okay.
It seems to me that there are no real negatives, no objections to what the staff would like to do with this center, but I don't see the urgency. We're really discussing when.
So
I'd
from
like
your
our residents
department-
to weigh in.
From your department, how would this affect it, what Dorothy's talking about? Just waiting 6 months, what's the adverse effect, if any, on the department?
So the adverse effect is that's gonna, right now, we have 5 people. By holding off, we're really gonna have 4 people because I will not be able to be in a response aspect. This isn't something that it's a knee-jerk reaction. We've been talking about this for several years. And obviously we don't want to waste anyone's time. We wouldn't be bringing this to you if we haven't done our research, if we haven't done our due diligence to bring to you what we have found is going to be the best. Shuti has an expertise in administration. Absolutely. I cannot say more about him. And what this would allow is him to streamline between both of us to make it a seamless, just as by the book as we can go. I can't say enough great things about him. We're not consolidating. This doesn't mean that tomorrow he's going to the fire academy, I'm going to the police academy. If all we're doing right now is addressing the administrative aspect, and we decide after that's done that we're not going to make a move on sending people to police or fire academy for 5 years or even ever, that has nothing to do with it. What we're trying to do now is how to make a seamless, unified administration. My firefighters will still be firefighters. Tomorrow, the next day, police officers will still be police officers. But what it will do is it'll allow the opportunity where if Officer McMillan says, I want to go to the fire academy, okay. Whereas
Today.
they can, but that involves them getting onto the fire department.
Oh, I thought we were already cross-training anyway.
Medical.
Oh, well,
Medical. So, yeah.
Matt, can you take the mic? Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Oh, so this is just, again, the combination of administration,
right.
not on the roles
It's
yet.
also a formal organization change, and residents haven't weighed in on it. I mean, it is public safety. Don't you want to know? Don't you want to get some feedback from the residents on this proposal?
Yeah,
I just heard something else I have a question about. Why can't a temporary chief of the fire department not respond? You said you can't respond?
So yeah, I'll touch on that. So right now you had 5 people, or was Taryn 5? Taryn was 5. Taryn was 5 people. So in the department with Chief Vassas there, that was 5 people. Chief Vassas' focus was administration. While he did respond, it was very rare. But his focus was administration, just like mine is on the police chief side. While I will respond to calls, that's rare, but my focus is administration. Now, if you remove him from the equation because he has resigned from that position, you have 4 people now. If you take on, he takes on the administrative portion of that department and focuses on that. Again, he is no longer now in the operation, whereas he has been in the operation, putting his boots on the ground, going to the calls and doing things. So that will remove him from the operational aspect to focus on administration.
So then that will affect service.
That will affect service, yes.
Except for the police department can step in, as they do today.
And that's
Not on the fire side.
not on the fire side, and
Yeah, but I
that's
bet if there's
on,
a fire, you're gonna set administration aside for public safety.
yes.
Yeah.
But on the medical side, you have to understand if our officers are on a traffic stop or a domestic,
Right.
or if it's one of our areas that is not inside the city. I just go, okay. If this is one of our county response areas that we're responsible for, then that takes away an. Correct.
Right.
Yeah, for their fire district, which is outside of here, and then mutual aid responses as well. I mean, the police department has mutual aid responses as well, but we don't have like automatic aid agreements and things like
I
that.
have a question for the council. If we, do we have to discuss this adjacent to the budget?
Right.
Or can we not, we don't have to necessarily put it off 6 months, but we could discuss it in October instead of today.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of pressure to make a significant organizational change. I know to you guys, it doesn't seem like that much, but EMS and response calls to our residents, it's emotional. I know.
That's why we're going about it this way, is because we want to continue to provide the absolute best every single day.
While we don't live here, neither of the 3 of us live here. Again, we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't have been here this long if we didn't care about the city. I mean, again, we
I
care
know
about this.
all of you care. I know that.
I mean,
It's not a
again,
question.
yeah, and so it's not about what's best for us. It's about what's best for us, our departments, their families, y'all's families, and friends and visitors to this city, and delivering the high quality customer service that we do now.
I don't think it would hurt to table it until after the budget is locked in.
May I say something to that? I highly recommend you make a decision for the budget process, not to delay. This is an annual plan, and there's ramifications. We talked about positions and what have you. The bottom line is you're already ad hoc public safety department. Hanging on to it longer is not going to change that. What's going to change it is how well that organization functions with the proper oversight, procedures, and administrative procedures and policies in place to work through that now. So when the time comes and this council feels you need to go ahead and they recommend, okay, we can start looking at functional consolidation a little bit more than we did in the past. This is what we recommend. You get to slow it or speed it up accordingly. But the last thing you should do, and I've been in public safety for 3 decades, so I'm well aware of what these guys are talking about. And I can assure you, it's not a democracy when it comes to these guys having to figure out how to best deploy their resources. It doesn't happen. Sorry to say it, but the public has never, in my 33 years in public safety, had to weigh in on whether this program was good. That's the experts right there. They're the ones telling you, this is what I highly recommend. They've got the backing of their employees. They've got the backing of the city manager, and I believe the community is not going to experience any downturn at all, but you're going to give them a chance to start working on that end of it. That's already started 3 years ago when these people are coming on board. You've got them under the same roof. They're cross-trained. So a lot of this stuff is already moving forward. formalize it, let them get their stuff together is what I'd recommend as your city manager, because I've been in their seats. I know what they're going to have to do. Get them a chance to start working through that. And then 6 months, year down the road, when you want to look at, they'll let you know when they're ready and they'll be bringing forward recommendations. It is always a council decision, but reorganization is the best time to do it is during the budget process. And while you may not have had a lot of discussions prior to, I've been down this road 30 years.
2 weeks. So
Well, but it's
best
not.
time
but-
is to do it over a couple
But
months,
if,
maybe.
if this council's going to say what's best for public safety without their leadership and their recommendations, that's not a good thing either. So, I'm sorry.
So if I'm hearing this right, it's going to be a case where very little is going to change, except for we'll have one person over both departments.
Correct. So
So let's say in a year from now, you come out and say, hey, this isn't really working. What's the worst thing that can happen? We'll hire another fire chief. I don't really see it as a big, I don't see it as a big deal.
I commend you, Pease. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, well, then
And
we'd have to hire someone else.
another
too.
part I think that is confusing is there's still two departments. There's still a police budget. There's still a fire budget. It's just overseen by one public safety who knows public safety.
Yeah.
He may not be a firefighter, but he doesn't need to be a firefighter to understand budget and administration. And this. I'm telling you.
You'll do all the scheduling, you'll do all the
Yes. I'm gonna,
operational.
exactly. And we will both be working hand by hand with him. It's going to be a unified front. And that's why we're all three standing here today is because it's because we're in this together. We want this. This is what from all of our sides, we have put hours into this. We looked at each other and said, how can we best serve our departments, our staff, and the citizens? And we came to this because we've been talking about it for years. And
My dilemma is that it's a really compressed time frame. We got a presentation tonight, just heard about it a week ago, and it impacts our residents.
Mr. Mayor,
would it be
would it be appropriate to go into executive session for 5 minutes?
We don't have executive session on the.
Can't do it?
We can't.
Oh,
I do have one thing that I want to, because
Can
I've
I
been.
just make a suggestion then? Can you add an executive session to the 15th, the meeting on the 15th, so we can discuss what you want to discuss at our next budget workshop?
To deal with personnel issues.
Right. Has to be on the agenda.
okay.
So one of the things that I heard from a lot of residents was the concern about the departmental response time. How does this impact staffing and manning? And I think one of the things that we're missing here is, let's rewind a month ago. We had a fire chief, we had a battalion chief, we had A shift, B shift, C shift, and we had our fuels mitigation guy. Well, he was coming on board. Yeah, he was coming up. So yeah, he was coming on board. So we had a staff of 6 working towards a staff of 6. Our fire chief is gone. And this proposal has us down to a staff of 5. If we are going to meet the same expectations of our residents with interim fire chief Sibley picking up the role as the fire chief doing the administrative stuff, if this proposal does not go through, then essentially in order for us to get back where we were or what we were working to allow our fuels mitigation person to do fuels mitigation, we're going to have to bring on another person. So it's, you know,
Can we hold on this discussion then till the 15th, and that way Stephen hopefully will be here and we'll have the executive session, and we can stew over this for one more week. Maybe get some feedback from residents if you guys want to reach out and talk to some folks.
No, this is all discussion.
Right.
No, just trying to get it out there.
I want to highlight one thing, if I could, Mayor, City Council. One thing, and I understand why it's certainly different from what you're all used to, but, you know, we had, if you're familiar with Clean, you know there's a police headquarters, and there's also a North Precinct. This was the old headquarters. And for years, and the people are no longer alive, so I'll say this. that for years I was told, or well, for a couple of years while the headquarters was being built, it's like 5 from start to finish, they said that, no, we're not going to have any downtown presence at all. We're just going to put everybody out at the headquarters. So that's how I budget. That's how I plan. About 45 days out, I was called in and said, you have to open up that precinct. I said, I can't do it in the proper way. And long story, that didn't come, and again, this is all administrative because it's city manager, city council, and they got me offline and said, look, we got to do this and we can't abandon the downtown. I said, well, we could have budgeted for that and have all this in advance. They didn't do it.